Chapter 11-14. The news about the battle between Ning Fan and Di Chong spread like wildfire across the entire Taiyuan ferry. Because no one was killed in this incident, it didn't cause much negative impact. Instead, it became a hot topic among the cultivators. Unknowingly, Ning Fan's name had become even more famous. Even some of the immortal emperors who initially did not believe in Ning Fan's strength were now looking at him with a hint of fear in their eyes. What one hears may be false, but seeing is believing. No matter how many rumors there were about Ning Fan in the world, none of them was as shocking as seeing him with his own eyes. The scene where Emperor Chong and Emperor Chong were beaten to a bloody pulp once again proved Ning Fan's strength. Unfortunately, the entire process of the battle was concealed by the iron curtain of the battle arena. Thus, it was difficult for others to know the details. As for Ning Fan himself, he did not really care about defeating Emperor Chong He. Perhaps it was because he had experienced too many battles at the immortal emperor level, but his state of mind was already unmoved by this. Ning Fan learned a lot of things that he wanted to know from Emperor Chong He. For example, he vaguely knew the whereabouts of the ancient Chaos Grand Emperor. In the past, Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had secretly left the Divine Tomb. When he left, he did not even inform Ning Fan and Xiang Bozi. He only went to the Zhaoyao mountain to look for Emperor Chonghe once and left some things for him. Ning Fan dismissed the maidservants and took out a charred ancient skull from his storage pouch. It was hard to tell how many years this skull had existed, but the aura of time it exuded seemed to be even older than ancient existences like Ancient Chaos Martial Monarch and Chong He Martial Monarch. There was a small hole on the frontal bone of the skull. It seemed to have been pierced by some kind of sharp needle or nail. When he touched the small hole with his finger, he could still feel a trace of sharpness and a piercing chill that would not dissipate even after all these years. The owner of the skull was an existence comparable to an ancient great cultivator when he was alive. Unfortunately, because too much time had passed, the spirituality of the skull had been damaged, and it was no longer useful. According to Emperor Chonghe, when the ancient Chaos Heavenly Emperor paid a visit to the swaggering mountain, he didn't waste any time and only took out the bone and asked vaguely, "Can you remember the owner of this skull?" Emperor Chonghe was puzzled by this baffling question and replied, "This old man doesn't recognize this skull at all, so it's naturally impossible for me to remember it." Speaking of which, Ancient Chaos, you really haven't died yet. Did that disciple of yours successfully prolong your life? Unexpectedly crossing the sea and deceiving the entire eastern sky, your disciple's mouth is really tight. Unfortunately, small numbers can be changed, but large numbers are the same. Although you are relying on your disciple, you can struggle at death's door for thousands of years, but you will still die in the end. Hearing the negative answer, the ancient Chaos Immortal Emperor seemed to be very disappointed. He turned around and left. Of course, he didn't bother to explain to Chonghe why he was still alive, nor did he bother to argue with Chonghe. However, not long after he left, Ancient Chaos Heavenly Monarch suddenly returned and left the skull of unknown origin to Monarch Chonghe. "Humph. Why did you leave this broken skull here? If my disciple Ning Fan comes looking for me, tell him that I went to kill the owner of this skull. The eastern sky is going to be chaotic. Tell him to be careful. Why should I bring you a message? Come back. Take your things. Come back." In the end, the willful great sovereign Ancient Chaos didn't say a third sentence to Heavenly Monarch Chonghe. He floated away, which infuriated Heavenly Monarch Chonghe greatly. What right did he have to pass a message to Old One? Why? Why? Those who come from the Lai origin sect are all bastards who talk to themselves. Bastards. Perhaps Heavenly Monarch Chonghe and Ancient Chaos Heavenly Monarch's master have some friendly relations. Ning Fan sighed softly. If he didn't vaguely notice this, he wouldn't have ended his karma with Heavenly Monarch Chonghe so easily. One of the main reasons was because of Great Sovereign Ancient Chaos Heavenly Monarch. Ning Fan examined the scorched black skull in his hand. However, he couldn't find any clues after looking at it from left to right. There are no clues at all, no clue at all. Did great sovereign ancient chaos heavenly monarch go to kill the owner of this skull? What exactly is the owner of this skull? It's really a puzzling action. I wonder if great sovereign ancient chaos heavenly monarch's action is related to the great chaos in the four heavens. There was no information left on the skull. Ning Fan pondered for a while and suddenly activated his divine spirit innate ability to listen to all living things. He wanted to listen to the voice that was hidden deep within the skull's soul. As soon as he listened to the voice, a bewitching male sneer came out from the skull. It was cold, demonic and indescribably uncomfortable. It was a voice that could only be heard by the divine spirit that communicated with all living things. The moment that sneer entered Ning Fan's ears, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. His eyes became blank. The memory that was going on in his mind was actually wiped away by that laughter. That blankness lasted for 2 hours before Ning Fan regained his consciousness. He was inwardly shocked. When he looked at the skull again, he was filled with confusion. What happened to me just now? He actually could not remember that he had used his ability to communicate with all living things to listen to the voice of this skull. I remember that I was planning to use my divine spirit innate ability to communicate with all living things to listen to this skull. At that time, it was just dusk at the shore of the Realm River. However, it was already nighttime outside the window now. It seemed like my memory of 2 hours had been wiped away. Did this skull do something to me? What a strange skull. Ning Fan frowned. When he looked at the skull again, he no longer dared to underestimate it. After pondering for a while, Ning Fan activated his divine spirit innate ability to listen to the skull again. As a result, he was bewitched by the skull for another 2 hours. When the bewitchment was lifted, he lost another 2 hours of memory. It seems like I can't get anything out of it. It's just a skull that has exhausted all of its spiritual nature and it's already so strange. I'm afraid it won't be easy for Master Ancient Chaos to kill the owner of this skull. At first, Ning Fan was a little worried about the safety of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos. However, when he thought about it again, he remembered that Ancient Chaos was an ancient existence who had killed a saint before. In the current Dharma ending era, there probably wouldn't be many things that could pose a threat to him. After trying some other methods, he still could not get any useful information from the skull. In the end, he could only give up on this matter and put aside the matter of the skull. Other than the whereabouts of Great Emperor Ancient Chaos, Great Emperor Chong he also gave him some information related to the dark race to repay the karma and befriend Ning Fan. Among the information, there were some things that Great Emperor Chong he had found when he went to the ruins of the Dark Continent. According to my investigation, the dark race doesn't seem to be in the Eastern Heaven anymore. It's really strange for the entire clan to disappear. It seems like little friend won't have to worry about the dark race's revenge for the time being. Congratulations. However, isn't the time when the dark race disappeared a little too coincidental? As soon as they disappeared, the Realm River fell into chaos. This time, the chaos in the Realm River is definitely not simple. Given my personality, I should be putting my own safety first and not get involved in the muddy waters of the Realm River. However, I also know that if the nest is overturned, no eggs will remain intact. If the chaos in the Realm River really develops to an unprecedented scale, I won't be able to stay out of it no matter what. Only by sacrificing myself and entering the tribulation can I hope to escape from it. This is also a form of self-protection. You're asking me where the dark race has gone? Hee hee. I'm not a roundworm in the stomach of those cultivators of the dark race. How would I know about this? Could it be that little friend suspects that I have colluded with the dark race? Little friend, you're thinking too much. I did make some deals with the dark race in the past and I also helped them to plot against you. However, I'm definitely not on the same side as them. We're just using each other. Even if the dark race is behind the chaos in the Realm River, it has nothing to do with me. Although I hate immortal sovereign Zido for looking down on me, I also know that as an immortal sovereign Zido, I will never do anything to cause chaos in the illusory realm. Yuan Dan. Maha. They did send people to the Supreme Dan sacred region to assist the Dark Race in unsealing the immemorial Thunder Cauldron. However, they were in contact with the Dark Race alone. I don't know how deep their relationship with the Dark Race is or what kind of deals they have made. However, I happen to know one thing. The Yuan Dan and Maha are not cultivators of the Eastern Heaven. They are demonic creatures that escaped from the Supreme Dan sacred region. The despicable clan of the Supreme Dan sacred region cannot survive in the outside world. However, some pill devils, corpse devils, and the like can survive in the outside world. Don't you think it's interesting? You're asking why the Dark Race wants the immemorial Thunder Cauldron? Little friend, you're wrong. It's not that the Dark Race wants the immemorial Thunder Cauldron. It's just that, it seems like the cauldron has really fallen into your hands. In that case, what Fei Lei said about you attacking the sacred mountain is probably true. Little friend, you must have met Taoist Bai Zhu, right? There are some things that I can't tell you. The immemorial Thunder Cauldron is actually a sacrificial artifact. Some people instigated the Dark Race to help them get the cauldron. They didn't do it for the cauldron itself. Instead, they did it for the purpose and mission it carries. As long as the cauldron is still in your hands, you and the Devil Conferral Summit behind Taoist Bai Zhu will have to fight again. Ning Fan closed his eyes. Emperor Chong He's words echoed in his mind. However, his face remained expressionless. No one could tell what he was thinking. In the blink of an eye, another few months passed. Currently, tens of thousands of Eastern Heaven immortal sects had gathered along the banks of the Realm River. The number of invasions from the foreign races was also increasing. There would be dozens of attacks every day. The scale of the attacks was also getting bigger day by day. As a result, even though the formation that the Taurus Palace had set up along the banks of the Realm River was strong enough, it still cracked under the relentless attacks of the foreign races. A large number of cultivators who were guarding the river began to die, dark clouds began to cover the entire Realm River. In the past few months, millions of foreign races were killed because they attacked the formation of the Realm River. Among them were tens of immortal venerables and immortal kings. Even though so many foreign races had been killed, their attacks did not weaken at all. Instead, they became more and more aggressive. It was as if the foreign races in the depths of the river would never be able to be eliminated. Everyone could tell that it was impossible to just defend the banks of the Realm River without attacking. After several meetings between the higher-ups of the alliance, they finally decided on a new strategy to attack and defend. Then, a large number of cultivators were sent to recover the hundreds of passes that had been lost. Those passes were located in different locations. If all of them were recovered, they could coordinate with the formation of the Taurus Palace and form a layer of blockade on the surface of the Realm River, preventing the foreign races from breaking out of the water easily. The Alliance leader and Vice-Alliance leader stayed at the center of the Realm River. The heavy responsibility of recovering the passes fell on the shoulders of the commander and vice-commander. In the sky above the Realm River, a massive battleship was flying at high speed. It had already been flying for 10 days towards the outer region of the Realm River. Ning Fan stood at the bow of the ship with thousands of experts of the Eastern Heaven following behind him. As the vice-commander, he also needed to participate in the operation to recover the passes of the Realm River. Currently, he was on the battleship, reading a map of the Realm River that the Taurus Palace had given him. The map was very old. It was marked with the words, Eastern Realm River, and, 11th Waterway. The Realm River of the Four Heavens had their own names. The so-called Eastern Realm River naturally referred to the Eastern Realm River. There were 12 waterways in the Eastern Realm River. The third waterway led to the Western Heaven, the sixth waterway led to the Northern Heaven and the ninth waterway led to the Southern Heaven. The remaining waterways of the 9 heavens also used to lead to a certain place in the past. Unfortunately, they had long been abandoned by the River of Time and could no longer be used. Thus, they had become truly lifeless areas. Under normal circumstances, cultivators who wanted to cross the river to the other heavenly realms would not use these abandoned waterways. Therefore, there were not many passes built on these waterways, and the scale of the passes was usually not large. Ning Fan was responsible for recovering the pass on the 11th waterway in this operation. There were only 13 passes on the 11th waterway. According to the intelligence, after the foreign races conquered the pass on the 11th waterway that day, they did not set up a large number of troops to guard it. Therefore, it could be said that it would not be too risky to recover the pass on the 11th waterway. The passes that were heavily guarded by the foreign races were the 3rd, 9th and 9th waterways. After all, those 3 waterways were connected to the other 3 heavens. Thus, their strategic significance was the most important, considering that the 11th waterway was not heavily guarded by the foreign races. The thousands of cultivators who followed Ning Fan to this operation all wore relaxed expressions. Behind Ning Fan stood 3 immortal venerables of 10,000 ancient times. They were sent by the Blue Emperor to assist Ning Fan. These 3 immortal venerables of 10,000 ancient times also wore relaxed expressions because according to the intelligence, there were no immortal emperors of the foreign races guarding the 11th waterway. With Ning Fan's strength which had killed an immortal emperor before, it would certainly be a piece of cake for him to deal with the other immortal venerables and immortal kings of the foreign races. Thus, the risk for them to follow Ning Fan was close to 0. While the 3 of them were chatting happily, they suddenly saw Ning Fan putting down the map. His eyes carried a hint of displeasure and he swept a glance at them. "You guys are too relaxed. We will reach the Water Moon Pass in half a day's journey. This place has already entered the outer region of the Boundary River. The possibility of being attacked by the foreign races is very high. Don't be careless." The Water Moon Pass was the first pass on the 11th waterway. According to the intelligence, there were 100,000 members of the foreign races stationed there. Among them, there were 4 immortal venerables and 1 immortal king. Ning Fan naturally would not put mere immortal venerables and immortal kings in his eyes. However, he had once been informed by the Golden Heng Emperor about the terrifying strength of the foreign races. Thus, he did not dare to be careless when facing them. However, those 3 immortal venerables did not know the terrifying strength of the foreign races. Even though the foreign races had attacked the shores of the Boundary River in recent months, causing tens of thousands of Eastern Heaven cultivators to die, the number of deaths of the foreign races was even greater. Millions of them had been killed by the formation of the Boundary River. Therefore, most of the Eastern Heavens cultivators looked down on the foreign races because of the series of military successes. They thought that the chaos of the Boundary River this time might not be as serious as the last time. Hee. Vice General, you're worrying too much. With you by our side, the foreign races of the 11th waterway are nothing to be afraid of. We sincerely believe in Vice General's strength from the bottom of our hearts. A bald old man shook his head with a smile. His cultivation base was at the second tribulation of the eternal era. His Tao title was Immortal Venerable Hua Long. Fellow Taoist Hua Long has a point. In our opinion, Vice General alone is enough to wipe out the foreign races of the 11th waterway. Unfortunately, there is a main pass on each waterway and the main pass must be guarded by a large number of troops. The reason why we came here is just to stay and guard the pass after the main pass is conquered. We are just doing some manual labor. With Vice General taking the lead, how will there be any danger? Another immortal venerable who looked like a scholar said with a smile. He had the cultivation base of the first tribulation of the eternal era. His Tao title was Immortal Jin Feng. Hee, I also think that Vice General is worrying too much. There is still half a day's journey before we reach the Water Moon Pass. Fellow Taoist Hua Long and fellow Taoist Jin Feng will be enough to guard the battle arc. Vice General, why don't you come to my room and have a rest for a while? A female devil cultivator with a seductive demeanor said to Ning Fan with a charming smile. She actually wanted to invite Ning Fan to have a good time with her. She was a newly advanced immortal venerable. People called her Madame Shyflower. She was a female venerable who attained her Tao through plucking. Her chi was weak. She was one of the weaker immortal venerables in the past 10,000 years. Among the cultivators of the Alliance meeting, many male cultivators were her giggles. Ning Fan's frown deepened. He was very displeased with their reckless attitude. However, he did not say anything more. It was even more impossible for him to fool around with Madame Shyflower at this time and place. How could there be a place to seek pleasure on the battlefield? While the others looked down on the foreign races, he was on full alert. He had already secretly released his rain sense. However, because there was some kind of magnetic interference in the sky above the realm river that could confuse the senses of cultivators, his rain sense could not see things that were too far away. Occasionally, he would take out the compass that he used to determine the direction. However, the needle on the compass would also spin randomly, making it impossible for him to determine the direction at all. This was the realm river. This place was filled with chaotic space magnetic force. Even a powerful cultivator like Ning Fan would get lost in this place if he was not familiar with the realm river. That was why he needed to use the ship specially made by the Taurus Palace to cross the river. The battleship traversed through the clouds. It looked like it was flying aimlessly, but it seemed to be following some kind of mysterious path. As long as the destination was set beforehand, the battleship would not get lost in the boundary river no matter what. The speed of this ship was similar to the speed of an ordinary immortal venerable. However, because Ning Fan was not familiar with the realm river, he could only reach his destination by taking the ship. Thus, he had no choice but to be patient and travel on the ship. Rustle. Suddenly, countless eerie neighs of horses could be heard coming from all directions. On the ship, the expressions of the cultivators who were chatting happily just now changed. Under their bewildered gazes, the river in front of them suddenly split to the left and right. Then, tens of thousands of horse-faced foreign races charged out from the water. Not good. There's an ambush here. It's the people of the Een Horse clan. The Een Horse clan was a branch of the foreign races in the realm river. Most of the members of the clan had horse heads and human bodies. They were famous for eating human flesh. In the past, the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven would offer young boys and girls to the foreign races in the realm river every once in a while to pray for a safe journey. Many of those young boys and girls were eaten by the experts of the Een Horse clan. At this moment, these Een Horse experts who emerged from the water were looking at the cultivators on the ship as if they were looking at their food. Hundreds of Een Horse experts held Een Soul chains in their hands and bound the ship with chains, preventing it from moving forward. As for the other Een Horse experts, they were talking in an unknown language while grinning hideously all the way to the ship. Due to the sudden attack of these Een Horse experts, nearly 100 Eastern Heaven cultivators died on the spot. They were either pierced by those Een Soul chains or shot to death by the Een Horse clan's Een arrows. Even though Ning Fan was displeased with his subordinates' carelessness, the fact that more than 100 of them were killed by the Een Horse clan still made his eyes turn cold. Tens of thousands of Een arrows were shot at the ship. It was unknown how those Een arrows were made, but they were extremely powerful. Ordinary second-step life immortal realm cultivators could not withstand the attack of those Een arrows at all. Among them, there were even some specially made Een arrows that could even kill true immortals and ancient beings. Due to a moment of carelessness, venerated dragon's left arm was cut off by a dark green Een arrow. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and was greatly shocked. There was also a single-horned horse whose 4 hooves were covered in flames. Its mane was made of dark green flames. It dashed towards venerated dragon while grinning hideously. It bit his neck and swallowed his head. That single-horned horse had a cultivation base comparable to a 4th tribulation immortal king. In just a single encounter, venerated dragon's head was cut off and he died. His primordial spirit barely escaped from his corpse. However, that single-horned flaming horse caught up to him and swallowed him whole. Venerated Dragon summoned several magic treasures to self-detonate, but all of them were destroyed by the horn of that single-horned horse. Seeing that he was about to be swallowed by that flaming horse, his eyes were filled with despair. "I'm going to die." Just as he was about to die, the single-horned flaming horse suddenly let out a miserable shriek. It seemed to have been hit by something and was sent flying while coughing out blood. When Ning Fan saw that venerated dragon was about to die, he had no choice but to take action. With just a casual punch, he sent that single-horned horse flying. Then, he chased after it and added another punch, directly blowing up the single-horned horse, which was a fourth tribulation immortal king. Dark green blood and minced meat instantly scattered all over the sampan of the ship. That horned flame horse rolled its eyes on the sampan, carrying an expression of disbelief even in death. It couldn't understand how this group of Eastern Sky cultivators basically didn't have an immortal emperor, so how could someone be able to casually kill it with 2 fists? Alimo AI. Alimo AI. As soon as the experts of the Een Horse clan saw that the single-horned flaming horse was killed, their eyes turned red. They rushed towards Ning Fan without caring about anything else. Their aura was actually filled with determination. It seemed like this single-horned flaming horse was an important existence in the Een Horse clan. Its death had enraged all the experts of the Een Horse clan. However, so what if they were enraged? Ning Fan turned his hand and summoned the ocean-defying sword. He pointed it at the sky and changed his hand seal. The ocean-defying sword immediately burst out hundreds and thousands of dark blue sword shadows, sweeping towards the experts of the Een Horse clan in the surroundings. None of the experts of the Een Horse clan who were below the ancient times could withstand a single attack from the sword shadows. All of them were killed. In just a few breaths' time, all the experts of the Een Horse clan who had rushed onto the ship were killed by Ning Fan. The eyes of the experts of the Een Horse clan who had yet to rush onto the ship were filled with fear. The way they looked at Ning Fan was as if they were looking at a peerless devil god. As an immortal venerated realm's second tribulation realm expert among the experts of the Een Horse clan gave an order, all the experts of the Een Horse clan retreated like a receding tide, trying to escape back into the water of the border river. However, they could not escape. Ning Fan breathed out devil flames, burning the surface of the water. The water within 100 li of which was 100 zhang was burned into steam by the devil flames. All the experts of the Een Horse clan who jumped into the water were burned to death. None of them were spared. Then, he used the ocean-defying sword to slash and cut off the Een soul chains that were restraining the ship. "Let's continue moving forward," Ning Fan said indifferently. He took out a piece of cloth and wiped off the blood on his fists, as if killing a fourth tribulation immortal king realm expert and tens of thousands of Een Horse clan members was just a trivial matter to him. The atmosphere on the ship finally became a little heavy. Those cultivators who had looked down on the foreign races before no longer dared to look down on them. Just a moment of carelessness had cost the lives of more than 100 of their comrades. If they were to be ambushed by the foreign races a few more times, no one dared to think too deeply about it. Finally, they felt a sense of crisis. Venerated cultivator Hualong's face was filled with bitterness and regret. If it wasn't because he was too careless, no matter how powerful that fourth tribulation single-horned horse was, it would not be able to destroy his physical body in just a single blow. Now that he had lost his physical body, 90% of his strength had been crippled. He was no different from a burden. Thus, he could only temporarily enter the cabin and go into seclusion with the injured cultivators to heal their injuries. After the attack of the Een Horse clan, Ning Fan's group encountered several more ambushes from the foreign races along the way. Even though everyone was on guard against them, they still killed tens of them. Of course, the casualties of the foreign races were even greater. Ning Fan alone had killed hundreds of thousands of them along the way. Among them were 7 immortal venerables and 5 immortal kings. However, this time, none of the thousands of cultivators felt happy because of these achievements. They had clearly killed so many foreign races, but the number of foreign races they encountered along the way did not seem to decrease at all. How many experts do the foreign races actually have? Could it be that they really can't kill all of them? Are these the enemies that we are going to face soon? Half a day later, a massive pass that was severely damaged appeared in front of the ship. Water Moon Pass. It was no longer accurate to call it a pass. The current Water Moon Pass had already been built by the experts of the foreign races who had conquered the pass for several months and turned it into a massive lair. Huge dark green insect eggs could be seen everywhere on the walls of the pass. They were wriggling like hearts. 100,000 experts of the foreign races were waiting inside the pass with dense killing intent. When the ship arrived, countless experts of the Horse clan dashed out from inside the pass. Arrows, soul chains, flame-flying tridents and countless other attacks were aimed at the ship. In front of the 100,000 experts of the foreign races, there was a gigantic dragon whose body was burning with dark green flames. Its eyes were scarlet red as it dashed towards Ning Fan. That was a quasi-emperor realm expert. It seemed to be the king of the Horse clan. Ning Fan's gaze inadvertently fell on the pass below the ship. He saw that the inside of the pass was filled with the white bones of cultivators. The muscles and tendons on the bones had long been eaten by the cultivators of the Horse clan. All of them have been eaten, the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven who used to guard the Water Moon Pass. How dare you kill my son? I'm going to eat you. The experts of the Horse clan spoke in the dialect of their race. However, this king of the Horse clan actually understood the language of the Eastern Heaven cultivators. It was just that he was not very fluent in it. All right. I will let you eat me once. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with cold light. He suddenly flew down from the ship. His white robes fluttered in the wind and he dashed straight towards the bloody mouth of the gigantic dragon. The gigantic dragon was stunned at first. Then, its killing intent intensified. It did not know why Ning Fan would be so foolish as to go straight to its bloody mouth. However, this was an opportunity for it to devour Ning Fan. Die. The gigantic dragon swallowed Ning Fan in a single gulp. Only then did the anger in its heart subside slightly. However, all of a sudden, its expression changed drastically. It was filled with fear. With a loud bang, its dragon abdomen was blasted open from the inside out by Ning Fan. Pieces of flesh that were as hard as steel and pieces of internal organs splattered everywhere. It's a pity that you don't seem to have the ability to eat me. Then, it's my turn to eat you. With a chi sound, a sword light shot out from the inside of the gigantic dragon's body, splitting it into two. Ning Fan flew out from the dragon corpse. He was holding an illusory dragon soul which looked terrified. He casually tossed it into the divine refining cauldron. With a flash of blood-red light, the pill that had been refined into the blood of 10,000 spirits was swallowed into his stomach. Kill! In a flash, Ning Fan dashed into the battle formation of 100,000 members of the foreign races and began his unstoppable massacre. The group of cultivators on the ship was excited by the scene of Ning Fan instantly killing a quasi-emperor. They controlled the ship and charged towards the foreign races. After a bloody battle, 100,000 members of the foreign races were all killed. As for Ning Fan's subordinates, there were another tens of them who died while nearly 100 of them were injured. The Water Moon Pass was restored. At the same time, in the depths of the water region of the Boundary River, one of the 10 or so gigantic dragons with long beards which had been in slumber for a long time suddenly opened its eyes in anger. The Horse clan is a clan established by my 74th son. I can't believe that all of you have been killed. Humph. Have the ants of the Eastern Heaven already begun to reclaim the 11th waterway? Unfortunately, as long as I'm here, all of you will become my food. It's just wishful thinking if you want to reclaim the 11th waterway. He then leaped into the air and swam towards the surface of the water. Only then did the rest of the gigantic dragons open their eyes. Long Qi has gone to the surface of the water. What should we do? The great divine priestess has strictly ordered us immortal emperors not to go out of the water unless we receive an order. Don't worry about him. Just let him be. Long Qi isn't weak. Even if he encounters the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor, he won't be at a disadvantage. If we go and return quickly, the great divine priestess might not know about it. Hee. I also want to go to the surface of the water and have a taste of human flesh. How about this? I'll also go and help Long Qi. I'll go too. Count me in. Stop. Long Qi going out of the water alone is already a violation of the order. If all of you go and the great divine priestess finds out about this, it will be hard to explain. Forget it. After a while, the great divine priestess will no longer restrict us from going out of the water. At that time, it will be the same to eat human flesh. Hee. I haven't eaten human flesh from the Eastern Heaven for 32 million years. The flesh and blood of the two Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperors were really delicious. Old 5, you're the best at perception. Can you sense who is the leader of this group of ants? Let me use the river diagram mirror to peek. N. The leader of the 11th group seems to be a deputy general surnamed Ning. N. This person isn't an immortal emperor. Not even an immortal emperor. He's just an immortal venerable, All the gigantic dragons were startled. Then, they laughed contemptuously. The ants of the Eastern Heaven were getting worse with each generation. Even an immortal venerable could be elected as the deputy general of the Border River Assembly. What deputy general surnamed Ning? I've never heard of him before. Sure enough, he's just an ant. Long Qi should be able to eat everyone before coming back. Chapter 11:15. After conquering the Water Moon Pass, Ning Fan did not immediately head to the next pass. Instead, he stayed in the Water Moon Pass for the time being. The cultivators who were guarding the Water Moon Pass had already been devoured by the Horse clan. Only broken bones and luxuriant weeds were left. It was an indescribably desolate place. There were no less than 1 million insect eggs at the top and bottom of the pass. During the few months that this place had fallen into the enemy's hands, the foreign race had already built an insect egg nest. Each of these insect eggs could hatch into a large number of young Horse clan members. A life immortal realm cultivator accidentally broke the insect egg. As a result, tens of thousands of dark green insects the size of ants crawled out of the insect egg and devoured the unfortunate life immortal realm cultivator on the spot. In the blink of an eye, only his bones were left. It was already too late for the others to save him. These larvae of the Horse clan were not difficult to kill. After all, they were still in their infancy and could not be that strong. An ordinary life immortal realm cultivator could easily kill a large number of them by simply casting a magic technique. What shocked everyone was the number of these larvae. A single giant egg could hatch tens of thousands of larvae. There were no less than 1 million giant eggs in the entire Water Moon Pass. If all the giant eggs in the pass hatch, how many larvae could be born? If these larvae were lucky enough to survive and all of them grew up, how many strong experts of the foreign race could they produce? No wonder the foreign race always gave people a feeling that there was no end to them. Just their reproductive ability alone was already somewhat terrifying. Ning Fan did not plan to give these larvae of the Horse clan a chance to hatch and grow up. Thus, the first thing he did after entering the pass was to collect the scattered skeletons of the cultivators and burn all the insect eggs in the pass. After clearing all the insect eggs, Ning Fan ordered his subordinates to rebuild the Water Moon Pass. They repaired the collapsed city walls, restored the damaged formation and reconstructed the connection between the Water Moon Pass and the Taiyuan Ferry. A large amount of work needed time to be completed. Ning Fan estimated that he would have to stay in this Water Moon Pass for at least a few days before he could depart for the next pass. Fortunately, he did not need to do the reconstruction work himself. Those subordinates that he brought with him would naturally handle it. There was only one thing he wanted to do, and that was to guard Water Moon Pass before the formation was restored. Ning Fan sat on the clouds in the sky above the Water Moon Pass. Occasionally, there would be some members of the foreign race breaking through the water surface. However, all of them were killed by his sea-defying sword light. The blood flowed into the river on all sides of the pass, dyeing the river red. After wiping out the invading foreign races, Ning Fan would casually throw the primordial spirits and demon souls of the experts of the foreign races into the divine refining cauldron and refine them into the blood of 10,000 spirits for consumption. In addition to comprehending, he would also summon the sun moon steel and star steel from the profound Yin world from time to time. They were innate magic treasures left behind by Great Emperor Ancient Chaos in the profound Yin world. During the tens of years when Ning Fan was waiting for the Dark Race's revenge, they had officially recognized him as their master. The steel of sun and moon and the steel of star were both low-grade Khanate artifacts, but if the two steels were used together, their might could even be compared to some powerful mid-grade Khanate artifacts. It could be considered as his third mid-grade innate magical treasure. The lethality of the water bottle was terrifying, but because it killed indiscriminately, it was not suitable to be used in situations where there were a large number of companions. Once the primordial lightning cauldron was unleashed, it could even blind an immortal emperor's eyes and crush their divine sense. However, it could also kill indiscriminately, so it was not suitable to be used in many situations. On the other hand, the sun, moon, and stars steel belonged to the kind of single-target killing magic treasure, which was more suitable to be used at this time and place. With Ning Fan's current cultivation base, it was not difficult for him to officially acknowledge the sun moon star steel as its master. These two steels contained the primeval chaos great emperors, seizing the Tao from the void, divine ability. After killing someone, one could steal their divine ability. Plucking women could steal their divine abilities. Steel killer cultivators could also steal other people's divine abilities. As a matter of fact, the ancient Chaos Martial Emperor's ultimate techniques all contained the profoundness of seizing the Tao from the void. The higher his cultivation realm was, the more he could feel how amazing Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was. Ning Fan was very interested in seizing the Tao from the void. Great Emperor Ancient Chaos had once said that Ning Fan could comprehend the void Tao seizing on his own by comprehending the sun, moon and stars steel. He did not lie to Ning Fan about this. During the past few years, Ning Fan had spent quite a lot of time comprehending the sun, moon and stars steel. His understanding towards the heaven-defying ability of seizing the Tao from the void had been increasing. When people walk the world, they will definitely leave their footprints. Walking on muddy sand, dust and snow would leave footprints. Walking on rocks and steel would also leave footprints. Some footprints could be seen with the naked eye, while others could not be seen. However, not being able to see it did not mean that it did not exist. It was the same for cultivators when they cultivated the Tao. The magic techniques and divine abilities that they had learned would first leave a memory in their sea of consciousness. Similarly, they would also leave a memory of their flesh and blood in their bodies. The reason why the Tao seizing from the void could be used to seize magic techniques and divine abilities through killing was actually the memory of those cultivators that were hidden deep within their flesh and blood. Ning Fan had obtained a large amount of magic technique memories through seizing the Tao from the void while killing the members of the foreign races along the way. He had restored more than 300 types of complete magic techniques and tens of thousands of incomplete magic techniques of the foreign races. As long as one could kill the opponent, they would not be able to seize their magic techniques perfectly. There were restrictions from the right time and the right place. However, the biggest deciding factor was actually the cultivator's level of understanding and proficiency in seizing the Tao from the void. Even though Ning Fan had a high level of comprehension, he had not used the Tao seizing from the void for many times. Thus, his proficiency was still very low. Currently, after seizing 100 types of magic techniques, there would only be 1 or 2 complete magic techniques and divine abilities at most. The rest were all incomplete and useless. The purpose of learning was to imitate, to comprehend by analogy and to create something that belonged to one's own. The Great Tao was the simplest, returning to its original simplicity. In the past, during the emperor crowning ceremony, Ning Fan condensed all the escape techniques that he had learned throughout his life into a simple step. As a result, his speed surpassed most of the existences at the same level as him. He condensed everything he had learned into a simple cross-shaped halos. As a result, the cross-shaped halos became renowned throughout the world. The reason why the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike was so powerful was because this technique had cast aside all the variations of various divine abilities and turned all of its power into a simple punch. Using the ancient Devil Tao of destruction, it exerted its full power. Using the Tao to control the fist technique naturally had a better effect than ordinary fist techniques. That casual punch might seem simple, but the critical strike and the essence of consecutive attacks contained within it were things that countless immortal emperors could not comprehend in their entire lives. Before he became an emperor, Ning Fan's attitude towards divine abilities and magic techniques was that the more powerful they were, the better it would be. Now, the simpler, the purer, the better it would be, and the closer it was to the Tao, the better it would be. Ning Fan would not practice the divine abilities that he had seized in depth. He would only comprehend its essence and integrate it into his own divine abilities. After that, he would simplify the complicated ones. After integrating the essence of more than 100 types of complete divine abilities of the foreign races, a few of the ink seals in Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos had been reduced. However, the variations of the attacks within the halos had increased by a lot, and its destructive power had also increased slightly. The ink seals flickered around his body from time to time, looking extremely demonic. Those cultivators of the eastern heaven who knew about the might of the cross-shaped halos were filled with awe and respect when they saw the flickering ink seals. The cultivation bases of the four elements of the ancient god, ancient demon, ancient devil, and the tribulation blood flowed within Ning Fan's body like millions of intertwining streams. Eventually, they converged at the primordial spirit in his dantian and underwent a qualitative change like a river flowing into the ocean. None of his cultivation bases had advanced to the immortal king realm. He was just an immortal venerable realm cultivator. However, after the quantitative change turned into a qualitative change, his magic power was comparable to a fourth tribulation immortal king, which made countless cultivators in the area click their tongues in wonder. His divine spirit sea of consciousness, primordial spirit and physical body had been strengthened by a small amount under the nourishment of the 10,000 spirits' blood. They were like the accumulation of gravel. No one knew when the sand would be able to form a tower. While Ning Fan was comprehending and cultivating, a gigantic whirlpool suddenly appeared outside the Water Moon Pass. A gigantic whirlpool that was 1,000 zhang large suddenly appeared above the boundary river. At the moment when the whirlpool appeared, the sky around the Water Moon Pass suddenly became gloomy and terrifying. Wind and thunder rumbled and heavy rain poured down like torrential rain. There was also an indescribably heavy aura force rushing out from the bottom of the water. All of a sudden, it shrouded the heads of every cultivator in the pass. Countless cultivators sucked in a cold breath because the aura force that suddenly appeared was actually the aura force of the immortal emperor realm. Could it be that an immortal emperor of a foreign race is actually attacking this place? All of a sudden, none of the cultivators had the mood to rebuild the Water Moon Pass. All of them took out their weapons and magic treasures as if they were facing a formidable enemy and entered the highest state of alert. Who would dare to look down on an immortal emperor? Immortal emperors were the peak existences in the age of Dharma decline. Don't panic. The opponent is just a sixth tribulation immortal emperor. Just leave him to me. All of you continue to repair the Water Moon Pass. Don't get involved in this battle. Ning Fan's voice spread across the entire Water Moon Pass in an instant. He secretly used the power of the yin-yang battle technique in his voice, which calmed some of the cultivators who were afraid of the foreign race. He's just a sixth tribulation immortal emperor. How arrogant. However, when these words came out from Ning Fan's mouth, it gave everyone a sense of conviction. It was because Ning Fan had killed an immortal emperor before. Moreover, he had defeated Chong He without using the cross-shaped halos. Therefore, he had the confidence to say such words. Don't panic. Listen to the Vice-General's orders and continue with your work. With the Vice-General here, why should we be afraid of the foreign race? All of a sudden, the morale of the entire Water-Moon Pass was greatly boosted. It was as if the foreign expert who was about to invade them was not an invincible immortal emperor realm. Hee hee. Interesting. This is really interesting. This ancestor has clearly released the aura force of an immortal emperor realm, but it actually couldn't scare any of the ants in the eastern heaven. You people are really bold, aren't you? Rumbled. A gigantic dragon that was surrounded by dark green flames suddenly broke through the water from the whirlpool and soared into the sky. Its gigantic body seemed to have covered all the light in the world in an instant. Is it the Horse clan again? No, that's not right. The grade of this person's bloodline seems to belong to the upper level of the Horse clan. This person calls himself this ancestor. Could it be that he is an existence similar to the ancestors of the Horse clan? Green light flashed in Ning Fan's eyes. In an instant, he saw through the truth of the gigantic dragon. He stood up from the clouds and did not even bother to talk nonsense with the gigantic dragon. He immediately took out the ocean-defying sword and slashed at the dragon. The dragon had just come out of the water. Who would have thought that the Eastern Heaven cultivator would directly attack without saying anything? In a hurry, Ning Fan's sword slashed the dragon's abdomen, producing a loud sound of metal colliding. The place where the dragon was slashed was slightly painful. However, the flaming dragon scales on the dragon's body were extremely powerful. The ocean-defying sword actually did not leave a single mark on it. Roar. Even though it was not injured, the dragon was still enraged by Ning Fan's violent behavior. Its eyes were bloodshot. He had lived for so long, but he had never seen such a rude and overbearing Eastern Heaven cultivator who dared to attack him without saying anything. The most ridiculous thing was that the one who attacked him was not some immortal emperor of the Eastern Heaven but an ancient immortal venerate. Very good. Very good. Since when did an immortal venerate of the Eastern Heaven dare to be so rude to me? When he looked again, there was not a single immortal emperor in the entire Water-Moon Pass. Including the audacious Ning Fan, there were only 4 immortal venerates. Instantly, he felt a little surprised. Previously, he was walking very fast and did not hear the other gigantic dragon's investigation. He only thought that the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor must have come to this Water-Moon Pass and that was why he massacred the descendants of his Horse clan. Now, it seemed like he was wrong. This group of Eastern Heaven cultivators actually massacred the Horse clan with just 4 immortal venerates. They probably used some kind of sinister plot to deceive the Water-Moon Pass. It has been many years since I was provoked by an immortal venerate ant. You really don't know what's good for you. You seem to be the leader of these ants. Since that's the case, I will kill you first before killing the others. It was actually a member of a foreign race who could speak the human language. Then, the gigantic dragon swung its tail. Ning Fan felt his vision turning dark. A dragon tail that was bigger than a mountain and was burning with dark green flames was already swinging towards him. A tremendous force spread out, as if the entire heaven and earth was going to be torn apart by this gigantic tail. Even though the momentum of this attack was great, it was not considered as strong among the immortal emperors that Ning Fan had fought against. Thus, Ning Fan only summoned the ocean-defying sword back into his hand and used it to block the incoming dragon tail. His body did not move even half a step. He actually used the strength of his physical body to easily block the dragon tail which carried a tremendous force. Other than a slight numbness in his palm, there was nothing wrong with it. In this way, Ning Fan also knew the difference in strength between him and this gigantic dragon. In terms of strength, this gigantic dragon was slightly stronger but not by much. It was still within his bearable range. However, the dragon scales of this dragon were also very powerful. He had already found out this point during their exchange of attacks. The sharpness of the ocean-defying sword alone could not break the defense of this dragon scales. However, if he uses the power of the other Tao laws, this young man has such great strength. The dragon was slightly surprised. No immortal venerate had ever been able to block the swing of his dragon tail. Just as he was about to exert more strength to swing Ning Fan's tail again, he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his tail. It made him shriek in pain and his face turned pale with fright. Ning Fan swung his sword again and directly cut off half of his dragon tail. How is this possible? The previous slashes clearly could not break the defense of his dragon scales. Why is it this time? Hiss. There are actually so many Tao laws coiling around his sword. The severed tail reattached to the dragon's body under a burst of light. The wound flashed and it actually healed in an instant. It was extremely strange. For some unknown reason, this gigantic dragon seemed to be immune to tearing damage. In that case, slashes became somewhat useless against this dragon. Ning Fan's expression turned slightly solemn. Just as he was about to do something, the gigantic dragon let out a loud roar and breathed out scorching dragon breath, forcing him to temporarily retreat. That dragon breath was very strong. Even ordinary immortal emperors would not dare to take it head-on. Ning Fan did not activate his eternal true body at this moment. Naturally, he did not plan to take it head-on. Instead, he chose to dodge it for the time being. While retreating, Ning Fan kept the ocean-defying sword and breathed out a stream of devil flame which turned into a boundless sea of fire, enveloping the gigantic dragon within it. The gigantic dragon instinctively felt a hint of contempt. Even though he was a member of the Water Clan, he was born to be proficient in both the Tao of Water and Tao of Fire. Besides, his body contained the innate dragon flame. Why would he be afraid of fire attacks? If he did not cultivate the innate dragon flame, how could the dragon breath he breathed out have such high heat power? Devour. Long Qi, who was confident that he was invincible in fire attacks, used the innate dragon flame to protect his dragon body. Then, he actually opened his mouth wide and swallowed the flames that were burning his body in an arrogant manner. If he was facing an ordinary immortal venerable in the past, such an action would not be inappropriate. However, Ning Fan was not an ordinary immortal venerable. He could not swallow his flames. Ning Fan could only blame the fact that his devil flame had merged perfectly with the innate lightning power. Due to the overlapping of the two types of power, it had concealed the innate qi that the flames should have. That was why Long Qi was careless when facing Ning Fan's devil flame, thinking that it was just an ordinary flame. If he knew that his flame was also at the innate level, he would not dare to swallow it no matter how arrogant he was. However, he did not know that, after swallowing a mouthful of devil flame, Long Qi let out a miserable shriek and spat out all the flames that he had swallowed. His internal organs were already burnt and his qi was slightly weakened. He was extremely shocked and furious. He was angry because he was actually burned by a mere immortal venerable. He was shocked because Ning Fan's devil flame was very strange. It was a little similar to the legendary unparalleled flame of the disaster beast. However, he did not know why it contained the lightning attribute, giving people a feeling that it was not. What kind of flame is this? Its power is actually far beyond his innate dragon flame. Unbelievable. Fire evasion art. Long Qi chanted the incantation. It was a secret art of the Water Clan that specialized in restraining fire attacks. As he chanted the incantation, Ning Fan's devil flame could no longer attack his body. It was extremely strange. Ning Fan's eyes narrowed. Slashing attacks were useless against this dragon, but fire attacks seemed to be very effective. As he thought of this, Ning Fan's finger seals changed continuously. The demonic flames that Long Qi had been forced to the point of being unable to attack suddenly turned into thick ropes of lightning, descending once more and coiling around Long Qi. Although Long Qi's incantation could resist fire attacks, Ning Fan's devil flame could ignore the obstruction of the fire evasion art if it was dominated by lightning. As a matter of fact, Ning Fan's current devil flame was no longer an ordinary flame. It was the product of the special fusion of innate devil flame and innate lightning, flame thunder. Flame thunder had always existed in legends. It could only be produced and innate lightning and flame were perfectly fused together. Lightning and flame were two completely different types of violent energy. A powerful cultivator might be able to forcefully fuse the two types of energy together, but it would only be a fusion where 1 + 1 is less than 2. It was not perfect. Moreover, if the level of the flame and lightning had reached the first grade of innate realm, even an immortal emperor would not be able to forcefully fuse them together, let alone 1 + 1 is more than 2. As a yin-yang transformation cultivator, Ning Fan could easily fuse the flame thunder. When the innate flame and innate lightning overlapped, it would erupt with a power greater than 2. Although Long Qi's fire evasion art could resist the fire element of the flame thunder, it could not resist the lightning element. Long Qi's expression changed when he was tied up by the lightning ropes. If he still could not recognize the flame thunder at this moment, he would have lived his life in vain. He repeatedly twisted his giant body, but he could not break free from the lightning ropes. Moreover, he did not know why his magic power began to be sealed bit by bit when he was tied up by the lightning ropes. This was the reason why Ning Fan slightly imitated the lightning prison rope when he used the lightning ropes. Seeing that he could not break free from the ropes, Long Qi's eyes turned cold. Suddenly, his giant dragon body exploded. Countless pieces of flesh scattered across heaven and earth. However, they gathered again in an instant, forming his giant dragon body again. Before Long Qi could rejoice that he managed to break free from the lightning rope's attack, 2 giant steels suddenly fell from the sky and smashed his giant body, causing him to spurt out blood. Long Qi took a closer look. He could not believe that the scene in front of him was real. The things that smashed him were actually 2 innate magic treasures. Moreover, they seemed to be a set of items. How could a mere immortal venerate from the ancient times possess 2 innate magic treasures? Could it be that this young man is the descendant of a quasi-saint? Quick! Ning Fan did not give Long Qi any more time to think. He gave a command and the 2 steels smashed towards Long Qi again. Long Qi was so frightened that he hurriedly retreated. He did not dare to face the combined attack of the sun, moon and stars steels head-on. He managed to avoid the attack of the sun, moon and stars steels by a hair's breadth. However, Ning Fan used the flame thunder palm to cut off his neck and cut off his dragon head. Even though the dragon head strangely reattached itself to a distance away very quickly, he was still slightly burned by Ning Fan's flame thunder palm. Damn it! Not only did this brat have a complete set of 2 connate treasures, but he also had such a terrifying flame lightning. Just the lightning palm alone could injure him. What was the lightning palm? The lightning palm was a low-grade ability that all first-step gold core realm cultivators knew. It was the lowest grade lightning control technique in the world. As an immortal emperor, he was actually injured by an immortal venerable with such a low-grade ability. How could there be such a terrifying lightning palm in the world? This young man is already so powerful even with the lowest grade lightning control technique in the world. If he uses a more powerful lightning technique, how could I survive? When he thought of this, Long Qi felt a chill run down his spine. His scalp went numb and he really wanted to retreat. In fact, he had misunderstood Ning Fan's intention. In order to pursue the simplicity of the Great Tao, most of the abilities that Ning Fan used had undergone transformation and simplification. In his hands, the simpler the ability was, the closer it was to the Great Tao and the more powerful it was. If he uses a high-grade lightning control technique, it might not necessarily have such a strong destructive power. However, Long Qi did not know about this. He was just speculating based on the general rules of the cultivation world. A high-grade lightning technique was certainly more powerful than a low-grade one. If the lightning palm was already so terrifying, it would be enough to destroy the world if this young man uses a high-grade lightning technique. This young man is definitely not an ancient immortal venerable. He must be a quasi-saint in disguise. That's right. Only a first-grade quasi-saint could use the lightning palm so terrifyingly. Only a quasi-saint could possess a complete set of innate magic treasures. The more Long Qi thought about it, the more shocked he became. Thus, when the sun and moon steel and the lightning palm attacked him again, Long Qi made up his mind. He evaded the steel and forcefully withstood the lightning palm. After that, he summoned the clouds and rain and directly dived down to the border river below. He was planning to retreat from this place. All of a sudden, the entire Water-Moon Pass was shocked. The immortal emperors of the foreign races had come to attack him, but Ning Fan had actually forced them to flee in just a few moves. How domineering and awe-inspiring was that? Witnessing something with one's own eyes was always much more shocking than hearing rumors. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air and remained speechless for a long time. Ning Fan's expression was calm. He was not really excited about repelling the immortal emperors of the foreign races with just a few moves. He had even killed many immortal emperors before. Repelling a sixth tribulation immortal emperor was nothing to boast about. If it were other immortal emperors of the Eastern Heaven, they would probably stop when they saw the immortal emperors of the foreign races retreating in fear. However, Ning Fan was different. In his life dictionary, there was no such word as stop when one is ahead. This demonic dragon could come and go as he pleases. How could there be such a good thing in this world? Even though there were many immortal emperors of the foreign races, there was still a certain number of them. Killing one meant one less. If this demonic dragon joins forces with several other immortal emperors of the foreign races, Ning Fan would still have to be cautious. However, if he comes alone, he must kill him. As the saying goes, if one does not accept what the heavens have given him, he will be punished instead. Freeze. Ning Fan did not even activate the cross-shaped halos. He just casually raised his finger and froze Long Qi, who was trying to escape in midair. Then, he moved at lightning speed and instantly sent out hundreds of lightning palms at Long Qi. At the same time, he used the sun and moon steel to attack Long Qi. Long Qi's heart was filled with despair. He did not expect that Ning Fan even knew the heaven sealing technique of the Eastern Heaven Ancestor Emperor. In front of a quasi-sage realm expert who knows the heaven sealing technique, it was impossible for him to escape. His strong will to survive made Long Qi unleash all of his potential. At the critical moment, Long Qi no longer held back. Hundreds of flaming dragon scales on the surface of his body suddenly flew out and turned into huge flaming shields, blocking Ning Fan's lightning palms and the sun, moon and star steel. Those flaming shields had extremely high defensive power. However, they could only last for one attack. After blocking Ning Fan's attack, they turned back into dragon scales one after another, breaking and disappearing. It was a life-saving technique that could not be recovered. Even though he managed to block Ning Fan's attack, Long Qi had lost hundreds of natal dragon scales. It would be a lie to say that he did not feel heartache. Instead, he felt more sorrow and despair. After 10,000 years of bitter cultivation, he could only forge a natal dragon scale. He only had a few thousand of these natal dragon scales on his body. How many more times could he block Ning Fan's attacks? Since his body was frozen, he could only passively defend himself against Ning Fan's attacks. In just a few rounds, he would die in Ning Fan's hands. He was unwilling. He was unwilling. Just as he was in despair, he suddenly realized that the heaven sealing technique that Ning Fan cast on him had disappeared. Strange. If a quasi-sage realm expert uses the heaven sealing technique on me, I can at least be frozen for 100 breaths. Why can this young man only last for a few breaths? Could it be that he is actually not a quasi-sage realm expert and his cultivation base is far weaker than mine? Is he really just an immortal venerate? But if he is an immortal venerate, how is it possible? Many questions arose in Long Qi's mind. Of course, he would not seek confirmation from Ning Fan. No matter what cultivation base Ning Fan had, it was a fact that Ning Fan's strength was above him. Today, he had come out of the water alone. He was a little reckless. He did not expect that there would be such a ruthless person among the cultivators of the eastern sky. Humph. I will come back for revenge another day. I won't give you a second chance to freeze me. Long Qi glared at Ning Fan with resentment and muttered some incantations. All of a sudden, his body turned into tens of thousands of gigantic dragons that rushed into the water in a chaotic formation. It was hard to tell which of them was real and which was fake. If Ning Fan did not know which of the gigantic dragons was the real one, it was naturally impossible for him to freeze all of them at once. That would give the dragons a chance to escape back to the bottom of the water. However, Ning Fan was an anomaly in the Dharma ending era. He was a cultivator who had entered the second level of the heavenly being realm. With just a glance, he found Long Qi's real body among the tens of thousands of gigantic dragons. Then, he raised a finger and froze him. At the moment when Ning Fan froze Long Qi's real body, all of the gigantic dragons collapsed and disappeared. How is this possible? How did you know which one is me? Long Qi was shocked. At the moment when he was frozen, Ning Fan launched another round of attacks from the steel and lightning. Long Qi had no choice but to give up hundreds of his natal dragon scales to resist this round of attacks. However, so what if he managed to resist this round of attacks? He could not escape back to the bottom of the water at all. No matter how many fake bodies he created, Ning Fan would always be able to find out where his real body was at the first moment and freeze him again. After rounds of attacks, Long Qi's natal dragon scales were finally used up. After rounds of attacks, Long Qi's flesh was smashed by the sun, moon and stars' steel. His skin was charred and his insides were charred by the lightning from Ning Fan's palm. He was severely injured and on the verge of death. Currently, Ning Fan could defeat a sixth tribulation immortal emperor without using the cross-shaped halos or his eternal true body. The reason why he had no choice but to use his eternal true body when he fought against Great Emperor Chonghe was because Great Emperor Chonghe's hidden strength was far beyond that of a sixth tribulation immortal emperor. He was just a special case. All the cultivators in the Water Moon Keep were shocked and they saw Ning Fan suppress Long Qi without even using the cross-shaped halos. Even though the news of Ning Fan defeating Great Emperor Chonghe had already spread among the cultivators, who wouldn't be shocked and they saw Ning Fan beating an immortal emperor to the point where he could not even fight back. The only strange thing was that Long Qi was clearly on the verge of death. However, no matter how Ning Fan tried to kill him, he could not destroy the last trace of his true spirit. That's right. The original form of Long Qi was neither a demon soul nor a primordial spirit. It was a true spirit. A true spirit was the highest form of a demon soul. Even for immortal Emperor realm demon cultivators who were at the last tribulation realm, only a few of them could cultivate it. Even though the demon races in the heavenly demon world like to call themselves great clans of true spirits, demon emperors who had truly cultivated their true spirits were rare. It was just an undeserved reputation. For this dragon to be able to cultivate his true spirit, he must have had some kind of fortuitous encounter. Ning Fan had used all of his means but he still could not destroy Long Qi's true spirit. Thus, he lost his patience and simply extracted Long Qi's true spirit and threw it into the divine refining cauldron to concoct pills, trying to refine him to death. Immortal emperors were known to be difficult to kill. This demon dragon seemed to be even more difficult to kill than ordinary immortal emperors. In the past, when Ning Fan encountered immortal emperors who were difficult to kill, he would capture their primordial spirits and throw them into the divine refining cauldron. This time, however, the divine refining cauldron was defeated. It actually managed to refine Long Qi's true spirit. After conversing with the divine refining cauldron through his divine spirit innate talent, Ning Fan found out that the grade of this cauldron was not high enough. It could not refine true spirits of demon cultivators. It could only refine primordial spirits and demon souls. This is really troublesome. If that's the case, I really can't kill this demon dragon. This demon dragon's strength is not strong. However, he is actually so resistant to killing. There is really no one else like him, humph. I don't know who you are, but I'll give you a piece of advice. Quickly let me go. I am the 9th prince of the 16 princes of the Dragon Horse clan. I have a total of 16 brothers and all of them are immortal emperors. The 16 of us are of one mind and we all cultivate the 16 hearts true spirit. This true spirit is a special type of true spirit which is much harder to kill than ordinary true spirits. Only by capturing all 16 true spirits at the same time and combining them to concoct the 16 hearts pill, will you have a chance to truly kill us. Otherwise, even if you are a quasi-saint realm expert, don't even think about harming one of our 16 brothers. If you are willing to let me go, I can give you something in return. I'm sure you will be satisfied. Since you can't kill me, why don't you let me go in exchange for some benefits? Seeing that Ning Fan could not kill him, Long Qi regained some of his courage and said fiercely. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a slightly strange expression. This foolish demon dragon actually thinks that he is a quasi-saint. What is the 16 princes of the Dragon Horse clan? As for the 16 hearts true spirit. According to Long Qi, only by capturing all 16 of them at the same time and concocting the 16 hearts pill, could he kill them? Is it really impossible to kill one of them alone? Seeing that Ning Fan remained silent, Long Qi thought that Ning Fan was moved by his words. Then, he began to take out many temptations to tempt Ning Fan to let him go. If it were other Eastern Heaven immortal emperors, they would probably choose the next best thing and let Long Qi go after seeing that they could not kill Long Qi's true spirit. However, Ning Fan did not do that. Releasing a tiger for a day would cause trouble for several generations. He had already injured Long Qi to such an extent. If he lets Long Qi go, it would be hard to guarantee that the other party would not take revenge on him. Even if he could not kill Long Qi, he would still keep him by his side. It was impossible for him to let Long Qi return to the bottom of the Boundary River to heal his injuries before coming back to wreak havoc in the Boundary River. Or perhaps, if there is a chance, he could do as Long Qi said and capture all of his other brothers to concoct the 16 hearts pill. Forget it. It's better not to try this. Ning Fan vaguely felt that Long Qi's words were mostly true. Perhaps the method to kill Long Qi's true spirit really required him to gather all 16 brothers before killing them. However, there was also a possibility that after the true spirits of the 16 brothers are gathered together, it would trigger some other changes. Thus, he had to be careful. It's impossible for me to let you go. There's still a long time. I will find a way to kill you. You just have to stay here and wait for your death with peace of mind. As soon as Ning Fan said that, Long Qi was filled with hatred. He directly swore at Ning Fan, claiming that if he manages to conquer the Eastern Heaven, he would certainly kill all of Ning Fan's family members to vent his hatred. Since he could not run away anymore, he naturally scolded Ning Fan as much as he wanted. His words were extremely filthy and vulgar. Ning Fan's eyes darkened. He directly used his ability to seal Long Qi's stinky mouth and knocked him out before locking him up. Inwardly, he thought, these foreign races really do have the intention to conquer the Eastern Heaven. In that case, it was even more impossible for him to treat the captive of the foreign races kindly. Capturing this immortal emperor of a foreign race was completely useless. He could not even obtain any information through soul searching. Be it the high-grade foreign races or the low-grade foreign races, none of them cultivated their sea of consciousness. Thus, the soul-searching technique of cultivators could not read the memories of the foreign races at all. Even the mind-reading technique could not read the thoughts of the female foreign races for some reason. There were also some low-grade foreign races who were captured and interrogated by the cultivators of the Alliance. However, most of the low-grade foreign races had low intelligence. They could not communicate normally with the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven at all. Thus, they could not get any information out of them. There were some high-grade foreign races who were captured and interrogated. However, they did not manage to get much useful information out of them. Ning Fan cleared his distracting thoughts and cleaned up the battlefield. Then, he flew back to the sky above the Water Moon Pass and sat on the clouds. The morale of the Water Moon Pass was high. Because Ning Fan had captured an immortal emperor of a foreign race, everyone was in high spirits. All of them admired Ning Fan to the extreme. As for the matter of Long Qi being captured by Ning Fan, venerated dragon, and the others greatly exaggerated it and reported it to Taiyuan Du using a secret technique. They planned to ask for credit for Ning Fan and at the same time, gain some benefits for themselves. Ning Fan did not stop the behavior of his subordinates nor did he encourage them. He just let them be and was too lazy to care about them. All of his attention was placed on the fire evasion art. Even though Ning Fan did not kill Long Qi, he had smashed his physical body into pieces. Naturally, he had obtained some of the memories of his flesh and blood. Ning Fan had obtained a few of Long Qi's trump cards and abilities. Unfortunately, most of them were incomplete. Only the fire evasion art was more or less complete. The full name of the fire evasion art was the 64 trigrams fire evasion art. Even with Ning Fan's current attitude towards magic techniques and abilities, he could not help but be interested in this technique. If this technique is successfully cultivated, it could greatly increase one's fire resistance. If it is directly activated, it could evade most of the fire attacks in the world, preventing them from landing. In terms of defying the heavens, this technique was definitely not inferior to the heaven sealing finger. Who would have thought that Long Qi would have such a good item on him? This was an unexpected gain. Ning Fan could imagine that there were still a lot of heaven-defying abilities among the foreign races. None of them could be underestimated. Although I don't intend to cultivate this 64 divinatory fire avoidance technique, it doesn't mean that I can't merge the essence of this technique into the Great Five Elements Constitution. The Great Five Elements Constitution's 5 elemental defenses could no longer keep up with immortal emperors. If I can completely fuse with this technique, I might be able to improve my Great Five Elements Constitution further. However, I don't have much of an idea on how to cultivate the Great Five Elements Constitution in the future. Everyone in the past said that the Great Five Elements body was the end. However, in my opinion, this path can still be extended. The only troublesome thing is that I have to open up the path of the Great Five Elements body by myself. I have to do something that no one has ever done before. Ning Fan was comprehending the essence of the 64 divinations of the fire avoidance art. Then, he slowly fused the essence that was related to fire resistance into his Great Five Elements body. With his perception and vision, it wasn't difficult for him to extract the quintessence of the fire evasion art. His Great Five Elements body which had stagnated had welcomed another transformation. Deep under the water of the 11th waterway. Seeing that Long Ji did not return after a long time, the other dragons did not take this matter to heart. They just thought that Long Ji was a little greedy when he was on the surface of the water. He would come back after eating enough humans. No one thought that Long Ji would face any danger when dealing with a group of ants who did not even have an immortal king realm cultivation base. It would be strange if they were worried, right? A few days later, the reconstruction of the Water Moon Pass was completed. On the waterway between the Water Moon Pass and Taiyuan Ferry, a layer of golden formation light that was as thin as cicadas' wings suddenly covered the surface of the water. Some low-grade foreign races who wanted to get out of the water were killed by that formation light as soon as they did so. All of them turned pale with fright and no longer dared to show their faces casually. Even though those foreign races who were at the level of 10,000 ancient times were not killed by the formation light, they were all injured by it and could no longer get out of the water. Ning Fan looked at the surface of the water that was covered by the golden light and nodded with satisfaction. Very good. After the reconstruction of the Water-Moon Pass, it would be very difficult for the foreign races to get out of the water from the back of the pass. They could only launch a large-scale attack from the front of the pass that was not covered by the formation light. This move was equivalent to moving the front line of the 11th route from Taiyuan Ferry to the Water-Moon Pass. Leave 100 people to guard the pass. The rest of you will follow me to attack the next pass. Understood. Chapter 11:16. 10 days passed and Long Qi did not return to the Dragon Horse Crown Princes. 20 days passed and Long Qi still did not return. 30 days, 40 days. As time passed, the Dragon Horse Crown Princes finally felt that something was wrong and started to contact Long Qi. They wanted to order Long Qi to quickly return to the bottom of the water and not waste time on the surface. However, there was no news of Long Qi and they could not contact him. Not good. I'm afraid something has happened to Old Ninth. Fifth Prince Long Xing took out the river diagram mirror and searched for Long Qi's whereabouts. This search was not important, but all the Dragon Horse Crown Princes were shocked by the blurry but shocking battle scene in the river diagram mirror. In the scene, a white-robed immortal sovereign whose face could not be seen clearly beat Long Qi to the point that he could not fight back. In the end, he extracted Long Qi's true spirit and captured him. He was clearly an ancient immortal sovereign, but this person had the strength to crush an immortal emperor. His powerful posture was like a true ancient immortal sovereign, careless, truly careless. I never thought that there would be such a powerful immortal sovereign in the Dharma-ending era. No wonder he could become the Deputy General of the Border River. An immortal sovereign capturing an immortal emperor. This person is definitely not a nobody. Why have we never heard of him? If I knew this person was powerful, I would not have let Old Ninth go to the surface alone. Hateful. Humph. So what if this person is comparable to an ancient immortal sovereign? He dared to injure Old Ninth to this extent and extract his true spirit. I will not let him go. We will come out of the water together and tear this person into pieces. The Dragon Horse Crown Princes were all furious. Their murderous aura burst out and shattered countless coral mountains at the bottom of the river. Each of the Dragon Horse Crown Princes swam to the surface of the river, but in the end, they were all stopped. The one who stopped the Dragon Horse Crown Princes was the oldest Dragon Crown Prince. Even his dragon beard had turned white and his whole body was emitting a strong aura of decay. Among the Dragon Horse Crown Princes, this dragon horse was the strongest. His old eyes were dignified as he coldly glanced at the Dragon Horse Crown Princes and scolded, "Nonsense. Have you all forgotten the great divine arbiter's order? If only Long Qi came out of the water alone, this matter would not be serious. However, if all of you came out at the same time, the great divine arbiter would definitely be furious. Do you think that the great divine priest can't kill you just because you have a true spirit?" As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of the other Dragon Horse Crown Princes turned cold. There was fear in them as they recalled how terrifying the great divine arbiter was. "Big brother, are we really going to watch helplessly as Old Nine is captured and not rescue him?" A Dragon Horse Crown Prince said unwillingly. "Humph. Who said I wasn't going to save him? I just don't allow all of you to go, but if only 3 or 5 of you go at a time, even if the great divine priestess condemns us later, the punishment will still be within the range of what we can bear." Even if that East Heaven immortal sovereign really had the power of an ancient immortal sovereign, it was impossible for him to resist the joint forces of several immortal emperors. Judging from the scene in the river diagram mirror, the East Heaven Celestial Venerable possesses a set of magical treasures that are comparable to mid-grade innate magical treasures. Furthermore, he seems to have cultivated the legendary Flame Thunder. How about this? 13, 14, 15, the three of you come out of the water and capture the East Heaven Celestial Venerable. 13th was proficient in fire, 14th was proficient in lightning, and 15th had the artifact-breaking Dharma Eye. With all three of them here, they should be able to restrain this cultivator's techniques. Old 7, you go as well. With your invincible Vajra body, even if this kid has other tricks up his sleeves, you should be able to deal with them. Just in case. Old 5, you go as well. I'm afraid that this person will turn around and run away once he sees how powerful you are. With your river diagram divine light guarding him, this cultivator won't be able to escape even if he has wings. The 5 dragons who were named accepted the order gladly and swam towards the surface of the river. The remaining dragons sneered, as if they had already foreseen the scene of Ning Fan's death. Their side had sent out 3 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors and 2 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. With such a huge lineup, even if the opponent is an existence comparable to Doomsday Immortal Venerable, he will definitely die. Ning Fan naturally did not know that there were 5 Dragon Horse Crown Princes chasing after him at this moment. In the blink of an eye, more than 40 days had passed since they took back the Water Moon Pass. After the battle with Long Qi that day, Ning Fan did not encounter any other Immortal Emperor realm existences on the waterway. The ordinary foreign races were naturally far from being his match. His battle boat was invincible and no one could stop it. The Copper Cloud Pass, the Red Sand Pass, the Two Eyes Pass. Under the strong attacks of Ning Fan and his group, all the passes were recovered one after another. The Een Horse Clan, the Clear Flood Dragon Clan, the Water Mirage Clan, the Cave Ghost Clan. The kings of the foreign races were killed by Ning Fan one after another. Their entire clans were annihilated. His name gradually spread among the low-grade foreign races of the 11 Paths. In the blink of an eye, Ning Fan's army had already reached the 5th Pass, Vast Sect Pass. There were only 3 immortal kings of the foreign races guarding this pass. Of course, they were not Ning Fan's match. Unfortunately, one of the 3 immortal kings was an expert in cursing techniques. Even though Ning Fan repeatedly reminded his subordinates to be careful, one of them was still killed by the curse. Madame Shyflower is dead. That evil woman who had once invited Ning Fan to the cabin of her battle boat in a debauched manner had now become a cold corpse with her eyes wide open. Ning Fan did not like Madame Shyflower's debauchery. However, he still felt some respect for her death in the battlefield. Venerated Dragon who only had his primordial spirit left and Wanderer Jean Feng who was severely injured wore a sad look on their faces. Both of them had been Madame Shyflower's gigolo during their journey. Even though it was just for show, it was inevitable for them to feel sad for her death. Today, Madame Shyflower was killed by the enemy's secret technique due to a moment of carelessness. In the future, if the foreign races try to ambush them again, the 2 of them would probably survive until the end. It would be a lie to say that they were not afraid of death. Who in the world would not be afraid of death? However, they could not run away from it. All they could do was to brace themselves and continue fighting. If everyone runs away, who is going to guard the border river? Who is going to protect the eastern heaven? I have a presumptuous request. I hope you can agree to it. If I die in the border river like fellow Taoist Shyflower, I hope you can bring my natal magic treasure back to the eastern heaven and give it to my descendants. Alright. I also have a request. If I die, I hope you can pass this letter to my younger brother. Tell him that I won't be attending the Immortal Sect flower gathering next year. Alright. Ning Fan did not refuse the requests of the cultivators under him. At this time and place, it was no longer important whether the Eastern Heaven cultivators had any grudges against each other in the past. Those who had the same hatred against the enemy were all fellow soldiers. That was all. In Guangzhong Pass, there were also broken bones that needed to be collected, insect eggs that needed to be cleaned and many formation marks that needed to be repaired. Ning Fan's group had to stay in Guangzhong Pass for a few days to rest and reorganize. 1 day passed. 2 days passed. Before the reconstruction of Guangzhou Pass was completed, there was suddenly a huge ray of seven-colored light that came from the direction of the border river. It was the color of luck that only immortal emperors had. Judging from the aura, there wasn't just one celestial emperor, but several of them. All the cultivators were shocked. They only knew that several immortal emperors of the foreign races had come to attack this time. All of them felt cold. What surprised them was that the ones who came this time were not immortal emperors of the foreign races. Instead, they were the immortal emperors of the alliance. The main commander, Thunder Immortal True Monarch, Fairy Yuhua and Great Emperor of Creation. 3 immortal emperors had arrived. As soon as the 3 immortal emperors arrived at Guangzhou Pass, all the cultivators of the eastern heaven stopped what they were doing and came out to welcome them. Among the 3 immortal emperors, Thunder Immortal True Monarch had the highest position. Naturally, he was the leader. With a gloomy face, he ignored the greetings of the cultivators and directly walked towards Ning Fan. As soon as he saw Ning Fan, he did not exchange any pleasantries and directly asked him a question in a deep voice. "Brat. Do you know that you have made a huge mistake?" Brat. It was quite rude to use such a title in front of his peers. Even though Ning Fan was just an immortal venerate, the people of the world had already regarded him as an equal to an immortal emperor. This Thunder Immortal True Monarch spoke like a brat. He did not conceal the hostility in his words at all. Ning Fan's hand that was halfway through his greeting stiffened slightly. He withdrew his hand and frowned. Then, he asked in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "Why do you say that, fellow Taoist Thunder Immortal? I don't know what kind of huge mistake I have made." "Humph. Didn't you order your men to ask for credit from Taiyuan Du just now? Why don't you remember what mistake you have made now?" "The huge mistake that fellow Taoist mentioned, is it, referring to the matter of me capturing an immortal emperor of a foreign race?" Ning Fan's frown deepened and he asked. "That's right. Do you know what kind of existence you have just captured? That is one of the 16 princes of the dragon horse race. You have already pierced through the sky of 11 paths. In a few days, there will be a few other princes of the dragon horse race coming to hunt you down. Your death is near but you don't know it. How foolish. Oh. There will be a few princes of the dragon horse race coming to hunt me down. How did you know about this in advance? Could it be?" Even though Ning Fan did not like Thunder Immortal True Monarch's superior tone, he was too lazy to argue with him for the sake of the big picture. His gaze shifted to Fairy Yuhua's beautiful face which was filled with frost. Then, his gaze fell on the machinist emperor who was wearing a bitter smile. "I heard that fellow Taoist machinist is proficient in the Tao of divination. Today, I see that it is indeed true. You can even predict that I am going to be hunted down soon. You are really impressive." Seeing that Ning Fan did not get into a fight with Thunder Immortal True Monarch on the spot, the machinist emperor let out a sigh of relief and said with a bitter smile. "That's right. It is indeed me who predicted this and I have reported this matter to the Alliance Lord and the others. Fellow Taoist, please don't blame fellow Taoist Thunder Immortal for being rude. We have actually come here with good intentions. We are here to save you under the Alliance Lord's order." The machinist emperor told Ning Fan the whole story. Only then did Ning Fan understand the whole story. On the day when he had captured Long Chi's true spirit, a few of his subordinates had reported this matter to the Taiyuan ferry in order to claim credit. When the news reached their headquarters, Emperor Tsang and the others who were in charge of the Taiyuan ferry were naturally overjoyed. They immediately reported this matter to the deputy generals of the other waterways to boost their morale. At first, the deputy generals who were in charge of attacking the other waterways were overjoyed when they heard the news. After all, it was the first time an immortal emperor of a foreign race was captured alive since the beginning of the alliance meeting. It was really satisfying. As for Ning Fan who was the first to do it, he even received praises from many immortal emperors. However, when the machinist emperor heard this news, his heart skipped a beat. He had an inexplicable ominous feeling. He immediately performed a technique to deduce the whole story. What he did shocked him greatly. He even predicted that Ning Fan would be besieged by 5 dragon horse immortal emperors. As an ally, the machinist emperor naturally would not ignore Ning Fan's danger. He immediately reported this matter to the Taiyuan ferry. After that, Emperor Tsang and the others could no longer sit still. One should know that the foreign races had yet to launch a large-scale attack. The number of immortal emperors of the foreign races on the water surface could be counted with one's fingers. Even the 3rd, 6th and 9th waterways which were heavily guarded by the foreign races only had 1 or 2 immortal emperors guarding one of the waterways. 5 immortal emperors coming out of the water at the same time had never happened before. Everyone knew how powerful Ning Fan was. He had once used the cross-shaped halos to suppress the 3 emperors of the secret races during the emperor conferring ceremony. However, the ones besieging Ning Fan this time were not 3 emperors but 5. Moreover, since they came for revenge, they must have come prepared. Ning Fan was likely to be at a disadvantage or even lose his life on the spot, be it for official or personal reasons. Divine Emperor Tsang did not want Ning Fan's life to be in danger. Thus, he immediately sent the machine creation sovereign who was attacking the 4th path, Fairy Yu Hua who was attacking the 7th path and Thunder Immortal True Monarch who was guarding the Taiyuan crossing to save Ning Fan. Normally, one could only move freely on the waterway of the Realm River using a battle boat. However, Phoenix Emperor Chongming did not use a battle boat in the past. Instead, he relied on his heaven-defying deduction ability to travel freely on the Realm River. The Machinist Emperor was not inferior to Phoenix Emperor Chongming in this aspect. Even though he was not the strongest among all the emperors, he was one of the few who could travel freely on the Realm River. That was also the reason why Emperor Tsang sent the Machinist Emperor to accompany him. With the Machinist Emperor's help, the other emperors did not need to ride on a battle boat which was as slow as a turtle's crawl. After knowing the whole story, Ning Fan's initial dissatisfaction towards Thunder Immortal True Monarch also dissipated. He could tell the difference between good and bad. Even though the other party's attitude was arrogant, they came to save him with good intentions. Even if their words were slightly inappropriate, it was not unforgivable. Inwardly, he felt a little warm because Emperor Tsang and the Machinist Emperor cared about him. The fact that the 5 dragon horse immortal emperors came to hunt him down naturally did not scare Ning Fan. He had even fought against more than 10 immortal emperors of the dark race before. Why would he be afraid of just 5 immortal emperors? Especially at this moment, when he already knew that the other party was coming to attack him in advance, he would not be ambushed by them and he would not be afraid of the 5 immortal emperors. However, it was difficult for him to tell the Machinist Emperor and the others. Could he just tell them that he was not afraid of the 5 immortal emperors and that he could still defeat them even if there were more than 10 of them? Wouldn't that sound too arrogant? It would easily make people feel disgusted. Even though Ning Fan did have the confidence to be arrogant, Thunder Immortal True Monarch came to save Ning Fan under orders, not to help him fight. They wanted to bring Ning Fan and the others back to Taiyuan Ferry safely and temporarily give up on conquering the 11th waterway. Ning Fan was not afraid of the encirclement of the 5 immortal emperors, but it did not mean that ordinary people would not be afraid. Even existences like Emperor Tsang did not dare to be encircled by the 5 immortal emperors, let alone ordinary immortal emperors. The Machinist Emperor and the others repeatedly advised Ning Fan to withdraw his troops and temporarily return to Taiyuan Ferry to recuperate and avoid the sharpness of the 5 immortal emperors. Ning Fan politely declined the advice of the 3 emperors. When Thunder Immortal True Monarch saw that his persuasion was futile, he angrily brought out the order of Emperor Tsang. Lord Alliance Lord has given an order: if the situation is unfavorable, the 11 armies must immediately withdraw to Taiyuan Ferry without any delay. Ning Fan, are you thinking of disobeying our Lord's order? Our Lord has said that we must only withdraw the 11 armies if the situation is unfavorable. However, In my opinion, what we are doing now is not disadvantageous at all. You might not believe it, but I have the confidence to deal with the 5 immortal emperors. I dare not say that I will definitely win, but I have 100% confidence that I can make them retreat. Out of consideration for the Machinist Emperor and the others, Ning Fan did not say that he could beat the crap out of the 5 immortal emperors. He only said that he could force them to retreat. Even so, Thunder Immortal and the others still believed that Ning Fan was being arrogant and conceited. Military orders must be obeyed. Even if I have to delay, I will drag you back to Taiyuan Ferry. Thunder Immortal True Monarch's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and shot a ray of lightning at Ning Fan. The lightning ray turned into a rope, trying to tie Ning Fan up. However, Ning Fan just casually waved his sleeve and shattered all of Thunder Immortal True Monarch's lightning. He smiled without saying a word. Thunder Immortal True Monarch was inwardly shocked. He did not expect Ning Fan to be able to block his attack so easily. Even if he had held back in his attack, it should not have been like this. If it were other 6 Tribulation Immortal Emperors, they would not be able to do it so easily. After all, he was an unrivaled existence among the 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. My lady, help me. Thunder Immortal True Monarch said indifferently to Fairy Yuhua, who was beside him. There was not a single hint of sweetness or tenderness in his voice. Fairy Yuhua, on the other hand, maintained her sweet smile. However, that smile somehow gave Ning Fan a stiff and fake feeling. Fairy Yuhua opened her cherry lips and breathed out a mouthful of unknown red mist towards Thunder Immortal True Monarch. It was unknown what that red mist was. As soon as it came into contact with Thunder Immortal True Monarch's body, Thunder Immortal True Monarch's chi skyrocketed. His cultivation base actually rose to the 7th Tribulation Immortal True Monarch within a short period of time. Thunder Immortal True Monarch, whose cultivation base had skyrocketed, raised his hand again and struck out lightning rays to restrain Ning Fan. This time, he used all of his strength because he no longer dared to underestimate Ning Fan. However, Ning Fan was still as calm as before. With just a wave of his hand and a flick of his sleeve, he shattered all of Thunder Immortal True Monarch's attacks. Then, he smiled innocently. Thank you for letting me win. Thunder Immortal True Monarch instantly felt a little embarrassed. After testing Ning Fan for a while, he had already found out the answer. Even if he uses all of his strength, he would not be able to restrain Ning Fan. Even if he uses all of his strength, he would not be able to restrain Ning Fan. Are you really determined to defend this Guangzhong Pass to your death and fight against the 5 emperors of the Dragon Horse? Thunder Immortal True Monarch said in a deep voice. That's right. I deeply appreciate everyone's good intention of coming all the way here to help me. However, since I'm in charge of the strategy of the 11 routes, I'm not willing to return the pass that I have already conquered to the foreign races. If they want to fight, I'll just wait for them here. Of course, you guys don't have the responsibility to conquer this route. You don't have to stay here and take the risk with me. Nonsense. How are you going to fight against 5 immortal emperors of the foreign races with your strength alone? Thunder Immortal True Monarch shook his head continuously with an expression that said he was incompetent. In the end, he let out a long sigh and said. Forget it. Forget it. Since we're all here for the Alliance, I can't just watch you die here. I'll stay here and help you fight against the 5 emperors of the Dragon Horse for once. However, I'll be frank with you first. If things don't work out, you must listen to my arrangements. Immediately retreat from the battlefield and follow me back to the Taiyuan crossing. You can't do it. Ning Fan was stunned. He thought that given Thunder Immortal True Monarch's arrogance, he would definitely leave in a huff once he disobeys him. Even though this person was arrogant, he was able to consider the overall situation. He could endure the displeasure in his heart and help a person he disliked to guard the pass. Well, he could not be said to have no merits. Don't worry, fellow Taoist. If things don't work out, I certainly won't stay here foolishly and let them kill me. Even though I don't stick to a single pattern, I'm not a person without a plan. If I don't have a certain level of confidence, I won't seek my own death. Humph. I hope so. In that case, even though Thunder Immortal True Monarch was dissatisfied, he still stayed behind to help Ning Fan guard the pass. The news that the 5 emperors of the Dragon Horse were going to attack soon spread across the entire vast sect pass. For a moment, no one could remain calm anymore. Even if they had 3 immortal emperors and Ning Fan on their side, the other party had 5 immortal emperors. At the end of the day, they were still at a disadvantage. Dark clouds shrouded everyone's hearts. In the entire pass, Ning Fan was the only one who could sit in the sky thoughtlessly and comprehend and cultivate on his own. On the 3rd day. On the 4th day. On this day, 5 massive vortexes suddenly appeared on the surface of the river in Vast Sect Pass. Between heaven and earth, dark clouds gathered and wind and thunder rumbled. The Thunder Immortal Tao Companion and Great Emperor Ji Wang who were meditating suddenly opened their eyes. Their eyes were filled with seriousness. At the same time, 5 dragon roars and horse neighs that were filled with anger resounded between the water and the sky. Little brat with the surname Ning, die. The 5 emperors arrived at the same time. Their killing intent was matchless. All of a sudden, huge waves that connected to the heavens rose from the boundary river and drowned Vast Sect Pass. Chapter 11:17. Flood Guangzhong Pass. Huge waves rose to the sky, containing a trace of an immortal emperor's divine ability. In the midst of the storm, the entire Guangzhong Pass was submerged. Some eastern sky cultivators didn't have enough time to dodge, and were directly swept away by the huge wave. Others narrowly dodged into the air. Ning Fan's expression remained the same. He lifted his finger and pointed at the huge wave that was about to engulf the entire Vast Sect Pass. Then, with a flick of his sleeve, a huge wave was forcefully shattered. The cultivators who were swept away by the wave fell out of it. After escaping from death, all of them expressed their gratitude towards Ning Fan. Humph. All of you, back down. The one who has come is a foreign race immortal emperor. He isn't someone you can fight. While Ning Fan was rescuing them, a voice full of arrogance spread across the entire Vast Sect Pass. Then, 3 rays of light flashed. Thunder Immortal True Monarch, Fairy Yuhua and Emperor Ji Chuang appeared beside Ning Fan. As soon as Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others appeared, they saw 5 gigantic dragons breaking out of the water. Their cold eyes locked onto Ning Fan who was standing in the middle of the group. He didn't start fighting right away. Instead, he hesitated for a moment. It was because the 5 gigantic dragons realized that Ning Fan was not the only one here. There were also 3 other Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperors. This was somewhat unexpected. However, that hesitation didn't last for long. Very quickly, he released his monstrous killing intent once again. As the pride of the Boundary River's water race, they basically looked down on the Eastern Sky cultivators. It was impossible for them to change their original plan just because the situation had changed. Despicable Eastern Sky Ant, it seems like you've already calculated that I'll come to kill you, so you've already invited a helper in advance. Unfortunately, these 3 Six Tribulation Immortal Emperors can't save your life. We'll only know after we try. Thunder Immortal True Monarch snorted coldly and charged at the 2 strongest dragons among the 5. He grabbed with his hand and purple lightning turned into a rain of light that shot toward them. He was proud of his own people, but he was even more proud of his enemies. He had long regarded himself as the strongest person in Guangzhong Pass. He actually wanted to fight against 2 Seven Tribulation Immortal Emperors alone. Of course, he didn't think that he could defeat 2 Seventh Tribulation Immortal Emperors with his peak 6th Tribulation cultivation. Even if he could defeat one of them, it was unlikely that he would be able to do so. However, he was confident that if he could only delay them for a while, even if the other party was 2 Seventh Tribulation cultivators, it would not be difficult. He did not seek victory in today's battle. He just wanted to let the stubborn Ning Fan realize his opponent's strength and retreat. He had already secretly arranged a method to escape from the battle with the machine-crafting emperor. As long as Ning Fan agrees to leave, he could lead everyone in this place and flee without leaving a trace at any time. Interesting, a mere 6 Tribulation Immortal Emperor dares to fight 2 7 Tribulation Immortal Emperors alone. Eastern Sky Ants, are they all as arrogant as you? 7th Prince Long Jia laughed in disdain. He allowed Thunder Immortal True Monarch's divine art to land on his body, but he did not bother to put up any defense. Even so, the lightning was unable to leave a single mark on his indestructible body. Such a terrifying physical defense shocked the Thunder Immortal Perfected Immortal. Don't be careless. Old Nine was captured precisely because he underestimated the Eastern Sky Ants. Since this person dares to fight the 2 of us alone, perhaps he has something to rely on. 5th Prince Long Xing said solemnly. He opened his mouth and spat out an ancient bronze mirror. The mirror flashed and the lightning that was attacking him disappeared without a trace. It was extremely strange. 5th brother is right. We really can't be too careless. Long Jia nodded his head and listened to his 5th brother's advice. As the saying went, once bitten, twice shy. Ning Fan, a venerated immortal of the eastern sky, was already heaven-defying enough to suppress immortal emperors. Who could guarantee that there were no such monsters among the 3 immortal emperors? As a result, Long Xing and Long Jia began to fight Thunder Immortal True Monarch cautiously. Fairy Yuhua seemed to have received some orders from Thunder Immortal True Monarch through telepathy and blocked the 15th prince of the remaining 3 dragons. The machine-crafting emperor laughed and went towards the 14th prince. Ning Fan, on the other hand, flew towards the 13th prince with a complicated expression. It was a very complicated feeling. He was already used to traveling alone in the world. The experience of fighting side by side with fellow Taoists at the same level as him was very rare. We are obviously not friends, but as long as we have a common cause, we can fight side by side and entrust each other's backs to each other. Righteousness follows each other in life and death. At this moment, Ning Fan was obviously in the middle of a great battle. However, he somehow thought of the Sword Ancestor and the scenes when they attacked the Holy Mountain that day. He thought of the Sword Ancestor's soul dispersing and the tiny soul grass. Dazzling Flame Mark. The 13th Prince's fire technique rushed towards Ning Fan. This dragon is proficient in fire. Ning Fan's eyes widened in anger. He would never allow himself to lose another important person. Never. Wasn't this the reason why he came to the border river? So what if he's an immortal emperor of a foreign race? Huff huff, the blazing fire Dao mark engulfed Ning Fan. The terrifying temperature of the fire caused the temperature of the entire vast sect pass to rise abruptly. Seeing that he managed to subdue Ning Fan with a single move, the 13th prince was secretly pleased. At the same time, he felt a little disdainful towards his 9th brother. 9th brother is really useless. He actually got captured by such a person in the true spirit realm. This person might have his own strong points, but he is still not as strong as me, Long Ji. Rumble, suddenly, a huge pillar of fire with the sound of wind and thunder tore apart the fire Dao mark in a domineering manner and rushed out. It was such a domineering flame. With the sound of wind and thunder, it was like the legendary unparalleled fire of Calamity Beast. However, compared to the fire of Calamity Beast, the sound of wind and thunder from this flame was much more violent. It was because this flame contained the power of innate lightning. It was truly worthy of being called the flame lightning. Burn! 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 The fire Dao mark that the 13th prince released was immediately incinerated as soon as it came into contact with the flame lightning. No, it was not just incinerated. Ning Fan's flame lightning was even devouring his flames to strengthen the power of his flames. What a strange flame. Long Chi's innate dragon fire tastes pretty good. After eating it, the power of my flames will increase tremendously. Your flame seems to be an innate dragon fire as well. If that's the case, I'll eat it as well. In the blink of an eye, all the flames that the 13th prince released were devoured by Ning Fan's flame lightning. Damn it! How dare you devour my dragon fire? I'm going to burn you into ashes. The dragon fire that Ning Fan devoured was only a small part of the flames that the 13th prince had cultivated. Even so, it still enraged the 13th prince. He thrust his dragon claw forward. 1,000 zhang long flaming dragon claw was aimed at Ning Fan's head. The power it contained was so great that even ordinary immortal emperors would not dare to face it head-on. However, Ning Fan did not evade it. He allowed the flaming dragon claw to reach him. He silently chanted the incantation of the 64 divinations fire avoidance art. The flaming dragon claw strangely stopped in mid-air, unable to descend on him. When the incantation reached the critical point, the flaming dragon claw could not bear the pressure and collapsed on its own. It was extremely strange, hee. It's really a heaven-defying ability. The collapsed dragon fire was devoured by Ning Fan, increasing the power of his flames bit by bit. Impossible. How do you know this technique? This is a taboo of my dragon horse clan. Brother Jiu would never teach you this technique. Why? Why? The 13th prince was shocked and furious. If Ning Fan really knew this technique, all his flame techniques would be ineffective against Ning Fan if he had not attained the third step. No. This technique must be fake. It's impossible for Brother Jiu to betray the Dragon Horse clan. The 13th prince refused to believe it. He continuously attacked Ning Fan with fire. However, he could not even hurt a single hair on Ning Fan's body. All of his attacks were nullified by the fire avoidance art. Ning Fan could already tell that the 13th prince was slightly weaker than the Dragon Horse clan. He was definitely not a match for him. Ning Fan glanced at the battlefield at the side and suddenly frowned. He had easily suppressed the 13th prince. However, Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others were struggling to hold on. They were not a match for the other Dragon Horse Immortal Emperors at all. Thunder Immortal True Monarch, who had always been conceited, was sometimes knocked away by the 7th prince's unbreakable Vajra body. Sometimes, he would be swept away by the 5th prince's river diagram divine light. He was as miserable as he could be. He no longer had the confidence and calmness he had when he fought against the 2 emperors alone. His face was filled with shock and regret. Fairy Yuhua's innate magic treasure was suppressed by the 15th prince's treasure destruction magic eye. Her chi was already weak. How could she be a match for him? In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, she had already suffered many injuries. The great sovereign Ji Kuang had also suffered some minor injuries. He was just an old man who told fortunes. He was not an expert at the same level as him. Originally, Ning Fan planned to keep some trump cards to defeat the 13th prince slowly. Now, when he saw that his companions were having a hard time fighting against their enemies, he sighed and decided to go all out to end the battle as soon as possible to support the others. It was not a sin for his companions to be weak. It was enough for him to be strong. It seems like you don't have any other techniques other than fire techniques. If that's the case, I will accept your true spirit. Brat, don't be so arrogant. Who told you that I don't have any other techniques? Watch me transform into my dragon horse form and kill you. The 13th prince was enraged by Ning Fan's words. He turned into a gigantic flaming horse with dragon scales, dragon claws and dragon horns in the midst of the flames. The gigantic flaming horse was protected by the 8 trigrams Dao marks. Its aura force was far stronger than the flaming horse of the Yin horse clan that Ning Fan killed when he first came to the 11th path. Compared to that flaming horse, this dragon horse in front of Ning Fan had an incomparably noble aura. It could actually make any cultivator of vast sect pass who sees it feel inferior to their race. However, Ning Fan was not one of them. He was also not frightened by the sudden increase in the 13th prince's cultivation base after he transformed into a flaming horse. After the 13th prince transformed into a flaming horse, his cultivation base was actually on par with that Thunder Immortal True Sovereign who was unrivaled at the 6th Tribulation Realm. But so what? Ning Fan did not want to waste any more time talking nonsense with the 13th prince. His left eye flashed with a demonic light, confusing the 13th prince who was full of himself for a moment. Then, he took the opportunity to approach him and directly activated the unreasonable cross-shaped halos. His mental power was being consumed rapidly. However, at this moment, Ning Fan who had activated the cross-shaped halos became the well-deserved protagonist of this place. The dangerous feeling that he gave off stunned every single Dragon Horse Immortal Sovereign. What kind of ability is this? Black Seal Halos, Crisscrossing Cross. Why does it give me, a 7 Tribulation Immortal Sovereign, such a dangerous feeling? What exactly is that brat's background? Not good. 13th brother is in danger. Hurry up and save him. At this moment, the rest of the Dragon Horse Immortal Sovereigns wanted to abandon their weak opponents and save the 13th prince. However, it was a little too late to save him now. The cross-shaped halos covered a radius of 1,000 zhang. Within the range of the halos, Ning Fan was the true king. The 13th prince had just gotten rid of Ning Fan's illusion technique. Just as he was about to mock Ning Fan for using a low-level illusion technique, he found himself unable to speak due to his overwhelming shock. At this moment, he was trapped within the range of Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos. At this moment, his magic power and spirit sense were locked in place by some kind of mysterious power. He could not move at all. That mysterious power was the heaven-sealing finger technique that he had refined into the cross-shaped halos. Hundreds and thousands of destructive abilities suddenly took shape within the cross-shaped halos. At this moment, Ning Fan was only one person, but he was able to launch an attack that was as powerful as 1,000 people. Boom boom boom. All of them landed on the 13th prince's body. 13th brother. 13th brother. Smoke and dust dispersed. Blood mist filled the sky. All of that blood was the 13th prince's dragon blood. Minced flesh flew in all directions. All of them were the 13th prince's dragon flesh that was as hard as steel. Ning Fan's expression was as cold as azure. He grabbed the 13th prince's true spirit that was on the verge of death and casually planted many restrictions on it, locking it in the profound Yin world. Even though his face was expressionless, his heart was filled with emotions. Even though these dragon horses were no match for him, each of them was harder to kill than the last. Even after he activated the cross-shaped halos and launched thousands of attacks, he still could not eliminate the dragon horse's true spirit. It's indeed a true spirit. Only such a species is worthy of being called a true spirit. He actually killed an immortal emperor in a single move. Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others were all stunned by Ning Fan's strength. Especially Thunder Immortal True Monarch. He had a conceited and arrogant personality. Even when he heard the news of Ning Fan defeating Chong he was not that shocked because he felt that he could also do the same thing if he was in Ning Fan's shoes. In fact, he might even be able to do it more perfectly than Ning Fan. That was also the reason why Thunder Immortal True Monarch had always maintained some arrogance when facing Ning Fan. However, after witnessing this horrifying scene, he could no longer show his arrogance. The Dragon Horse Immortal Emperor who made them struggle to defeat him was actually killed by Ning Fan in a single move. Even a 9 Tribulation Immortal Emperor would not be able to do such a thing. Is this Ning Fan still human? Is he really just an ancient immortal venerate? Release my brother's true spirit. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. The 14th and 15th princes could not hold back their anger and rushed towards Ning Fan. Unfortunately, as soon as they rushed into the cross-shaped halos, they were frozen and could no longer release any attacks. Their faces which were filled with anger turned into shock and fear at this moment. Because being unable to move meant that they were about to be slaughtered by others. They could only blame Ning Fan's reputation for never reaching the border river. If it was the Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor, he would definitely not rush into Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos recklessly. Moreover, all of them had come up with some methods to protect themselves against Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos. However, the Dragon Horse Immortal Emperors did not know the background of the cross-shaped halos. Today was the first time the cross-shaped halos became famous in the border river. However, it was destined to strike fear into the hearts of all the foreign races in the eastern border river. The Great River of Oblivion, the 5 yin-yang swords, the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike, hundreds and thousands of magical abilities automatically transformed from within the cross-shaped halo, brazenly attacking the 2 Dragon Horse Crown Princes. Blood mist flew everywhere. Seeing that the 2 dragons were about to suffer the same fate as the 13th prince, the 15th and 7th princes who were observing calmly from the outside and did not rush into the cross-shaped halos recklessly made their moves at the same time. They cast their techniques from a distance and dragged the 2 dragons out of the range of the cross-shaped halos, avoiding most of the attacks from the halos. After all, they were the immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse clan. They had vast knowledge and experience. Even though it was their first time seeing Ning Fan's cross-shaped halos, they could still see some flaws in this technique. Unfortunately, even though they were fast in rescuing the 2 dragons, Ning Fan was faster in injuring them. In the end, some of the divine abilities still managed to hit the 2 dragons. Because of that, even though the 14th and 15th princes were rescued, they were already in a severely injured state. Each of them looked at Ning Fan with unconcealable fear in their eyes. Fear was an emotion that rarely appeared among immortal emperors. However, Ning Fan was the kind of abnormal being that could bring fear to immortal emperors. 1 captured and 2 injured. In just 2 encounters, Ning Fan had made such a formidable achievement which shocked all the onlookers. Leave now. We can't compete with this man. The 5th prince gave an order. He was extremely fearful. At this moment, he could not figure out the details of the cross-shaped halos. If he continued to fight Ning Fan, it was highly likely that all of them would die here. He could only hope to temporarily retreat to his lair and come back for revenge after he figured out Ning Fan's background. Only the 13th prince who was captured was left. He could only give up for now. Unfortunately, it was a little too late for him to leave now. Ning Fan's lips curved into a cold smile. His Guangzhong Pass was not a place where the foreign races could come and go as they please. Since they were already here, no one should think about escaping. Freeze. Currently, under the cross-shaped halos, Ning Fan was not afraid of the backlash. He forcefully froze the 4 princes and stopped everyone from leaving. Thunder Immortal True Monarch was not a fool either. He took the opportunity when the princes stopped moving and blocked their path of retreat. They might not be able to fight a head-on battle, but they were still very good at fighting battles that were easy to take advantage of. One of the 5 princes was captured and the other 2 were injured. It was the best time to beat them up when they were down. How could they let these foreign races escape? Thunder Immortal True Monarch and his wife worked together to cast a lightning net. For some reason, after the 2 of them worked together, they were actually able to unleash the aura force of a peak 7th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. The lightning net actually trapped the 5th Prince Long Xing, preventing him from escaping. The great Emperor of Machine Making let out a long roar and desperately stood in front of the 7th Prince. He used his primordial spirit and blood essence to draw the formation marks of heaven and earth, preventing the 7th Prince from escaping. As for the 14th and 15th princes who were severely injured, Ning Fan caught up to them mercilessly and dragged them back into the range of the cross-shaped halos. This time, the other 2 7th Tribulation Crown Princes were blocked. No one could save them. The 2 dragons let out a blood-curdling shriek. In the end, they still followed the footsteps of the 13th prince. Their physical bodies were destroyed, leaving only their true spirits. They were captured by Ning Fan, planted a restrictive spell on them and thrown into the profound Een world. He captured the 2 dragons again. 14th brother. 15th brother. The eyes of the 5th and 7th princes were bloodshot. They wished they could tear Ning Fan into 1,000,000 pieces and eat his flesh and blood raw. However, when Ning Fan used his ghost-like speed and approached the 2 dragons in an instant, their faces turned pale with fright. They, still fell into the attacking range of the cross-shaped halos. They, could no longer move a single inch. At the critical moment, the 5th prince no longer held back. His eyes flashed with a hint of ruthlessness and he activated the He-2 mirror to its limit. All of a sudden, a vast and ancient profound chi enveloped the 2 dragons like the awakening of an ancient dragon. Chapter 11:18. For some unknown reason, the river diagram mirror seemed to be unaffected by the cross-shaped halo. It was the only defensive method that the 5th prince could use at this moment. The green river diagram divine light descended from the sky with a vast profound aura, enveloping the 5th and 7th princes who were trapped by the cross-shaped halo. Hundreds and thousands of green auspicious clouds condensed within the brilliance, flickering and flickering like the shadow of a lamp. At this moment, the 5th prince's dragon body shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if his flesh and blood were being devoured by the clouds. His face showed a hint of pain, as if he had paid a huge price. He shouted angrily. Divine Dragon Spirit, Ancestral Cloud Protection. All of a sudden, the illusory clouds that were flickering suddenly became solid. These auspicious clouds were summoned with the 5th prince's river diagram divine light as the source. The difference in power between it and the river diagram divine light was like heaven and earth, giving people a feeling that it was indestructible. It was not an ordinary cloud. It was the ancestral cloud that the ancestors of the Dragon Horse clan left in the river diagram mirror. Under the protection of the ancestral cloud, the 2 dragons that were trapped by Ning Fan were not affected by the heaven sealing technique at all and regained their mobility. The moment they regained their mobility, the 7th prince let out a roar and channeled all his anger into a strike. His giant tail swept towards Ning Fan with an earth-shattering force. This strike came too suddenly. No one expected that the 2 dragons that were trapped by the cross-shaped halo would suddenly regain their mobility. Being caught off guard, Ning Fan only had enough time to release some protective golden light to cover his body. However, he was still hit by the dragon's tail and was sent flying thousands of zhang away before he could stabilize his body. Although he was not injured, his blood and qi were still in turmoil due to the tremendous force. He was secretly shocked by the strength of the 7th prince's physical body. I'm sorry, 5th brother. It's all my incompetence that caused you to lose 30 million years of cultivation. You had to summon the ancestral cloud of the ancestors to save your life. Since the ancestral cloud has been summoned, there's no reason for us to escape. You and I might as well use the power of the ancestral cloud to kill all these evil creatures of the eastern sky. The 7th prince said with murderous intent. All right. We won't run anymore. I want to use the essence of the flesh and blood of these ants to replenish my lost cultivation. The 5th prince said hatefully. How could he not hate? In order to save his life from Ning Fan, he had used up 30 million years of his cultivation base to summon the ancestral cloud to protect himself. 30 million days and nights of bitter cultivation had turned into flowing water in an instant. Who wouldn't feel heartache? This kind of hatred was even more intense than when he found out that Ning Fan had captured Long Ku. It was like a raging fire burning in his heart. How hateful! How hateful! You won't let me escape. Good, very good. I won't run anymore. I'll make you pay the price. Freeze! Several thousand zhang away, Ning Fan raised his finger and used the heaven sealing technique, trying to freeze the 2 dragons for an instant again. However, this time, when the heaven sealing technique landed on the 2 dragons, it was easily blocked by the protective Zhu cloud around their bodies. It was ineffective. Ever since he cultivated the heaven sealing technique, it was his first time encountering a cultivator of the second step who could completely ignore the technique. He could not even freeze them for a moment. These ancestral clouds were really impressive. All of the Thunder Immortal True Sovereigns recognized Ning Fan's heaven sealing technique. Now that they saw this famous technique of the Eastern Sky Ancestral Emperor losing its effectiveness, how could they not be shocked? "Madam, lend me a hand." Yes. With Fairy Yuhua's help, the Thunder Immortal True Sovereign unleashed his full power. Hundreds and thousands of thunderbolts bombarded the fifth and seventh princes. The momentum of the thunderbolts was not much weaker than the full-force attack of a seven-tribulation immortal emperor. The seventh prince relied on the protection of the ancestral clouds in his dragon tail, easily destroying all the thunderbolts in the sky without suffering any damage. As a matter of fact, even though his Vajra indestructible body was powerful, it could not withstand an attack of the same level as him without suffering any damage. The reason why he could do that was because he had the protection of the ancestral clouds. It alone could block more than 90% of the power of the thunderbolts. What powerful auspicious clouds! No wonder these demon dragons called them ancestral clouds. The Thunder Immortal True Sovereign's expression changed. Before he could continue his attack, the seventh prince's dragon tail suddenly attacked him. He hurriedly blocked it, but he was still sent flying while coughing out blood. He was in an extremely sorry state. Fairy Yuhua was not in a good situation either. She was also sent flying by the seventh prince's dragon tail. One of her arms was destroyed while she was flying. The arm was destroyed, but there was no blood or flesh splattering out. Instead, it shattered into countless pieces of jade. It was quite strange. The seventh prince was startled at first. Then, he said disdainfully, "So this woman is not a living person but a puppet made of heavenly law white jade. No wonder she is so weak. What a pity, what a pity. It seems like there won't be any delicious flesh to eat after killing this woman." Hearing this, the Thunder Immortal True Sovereign's expression immediately turned gloomy as if his biggest secret had been exposed. As he spoke, the seventh prince swept his tail at the great Emperor Machinist, causing his expression to change greatly. Everyone could see that the seventh prince's body was extremely strong. How could the Machinist Great Emperor dare to take this attack head-on? He spurted out five-colored righteous chi and combined it with the power of heaven and earth to condense thousands of five-colored formation patterns to block this attack. However, the power of the five-colored formation patterns was actually weakened by the seventh prince's ancestral clouds and was easily destroyed by the seventh prince's dragon tail. Then, the dragon tail hit the Machinist Great Emperor head-on, sending him flying while coughing out blood. His invincible five-colored formation patterns were actually weakened by the opponent's auspicious cloud. What kind of cloud is that? It's too strange. Ancestral clouds, ancestral clouds. The ancestors of the Dragon Horse clan have left such a divine ability for their descendants. The seventh prince injured 3 emperors in a row. His heroic spirit was ignited and he said with a sinister smile, "Fifth brother. Leave these 3 pieces of trash to me. You go and take revenge on that Ning brat." The fifth prince's eyes turned blood red. He no longer wanted to talk nonsense with him. At this moment, the only thing he wanted to do was to vent his anger on Ning Fan and tear him into pieces. His gigantic dragon body tumbled in the clouds and turned into a giant beast with dragon horns and a horse's face. His face was ferocious like an ugly ghost. Even the ancestral clouds who had a strong profound chi around him could not dispel the ferocious chi on his face. This giant beast body was the eternal true body that the fifth prince had cultivated for many years. Originally, he was no longer an expert of the 7 tribulations eternal realm after losing 30 million years of cultivation experience. Now that he had transformed into the eternal true body, he regained some of the unrivaled aura of the 7 tribulations eternal realm. The fifth prince waved his hand and thousands of green light pillars shot towards Ning Fan. All of them were formed by the divine light of the river diagram. Ning Fan activated his ability and turned the protective golden light into golden rays that filled the sky, easily blocking the fifth prince's divine light attack. When he raised his hand again, the sun, moon and stars' steel suddenly fell from the sky and hit the fifth prince's back. He staggered and almost fell, but he did not suffer any serious injuries. He only coughed out some blood. The attack of the two steels, which were comparable to mid-grade innate magical treasures, was reduced by half by the ancestral clouds around the fifth prince's body. Thus, he was only slightly injured. Ning Fan's expression did not show it, but he was inwardly shocked by the defensive power of the ancestral clouds. The ancestral clouds can ignore the immobilization and reduce the damage. What a powerful ancestral clouds! Unbeknownst to him, the fifth prince was even more shocked. His giant beast body already had an extremely high defensive power. In addition to the protection of the ancestral clouds, even an 8th Tribulation Immortal Emperor would have a hard time dealing any damage to him. Isn't Ning Fan's sun, moon and stars steel a little too powerful? It can actually slightly break through my defense. Is this young man really just an ancient immortal venerable? Tai-E Divine Technique. The fifth prince opened his mouth and breathed out innate dragon fire. The dragon fire turned into 9 dragons and soared into the sky. The 9 dragons merged into one and turned into the 9 dragons' divine fire shield, covering Ning Fan in one fell swoop. The 9 fire dragons burned fiercely. Even with the strength of Ning Fan's protective golden light, it still burned a hole. Even if he chanted the 64 trigrams fire avoidance art, he still could not get rid of the fire dragons. It was not because the 64 trigrams fire avoidance art was not powerful, but because the essence of the fire avoidance art had been integrated into the fifth prince's Tai-E divine technique. When the fifth prince used it in the reverse way, the fire was unavoidable and unstoppable. Its penetrative power was extremely strong and hard to defend against. In this way, even if Ning Fan cultivated the fire avoidance art, he would not be able to defend against the destructive power of the 9 dragons' divine fire. I didn't expect that the fire avoidance art could be used in this way to increase the power of the flames. Ning Fan seemed to have gained some enlightenment, but he also knew that it was not the time to do so. Being shrouded in the 9 dragons' divine fire barrier, Ning Fan felt a sense of crisis even with his great strength. An ordinary 6th Tribulation Dragon Horse Immortal Emperor was already stronger than an Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperor of the same level. Even if the cultivation of this fifth prince, Long Xing, was inferior to Emperor Tsang and the others, his strength was probably similar. In addition, with the protection of the ancestral cloud, its defensive power was astonishing. Even Ning Fan could no longer underestimate this evil dragon, he had to go all out. Boom! Amidst the dazzling golden light, the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shield was suddenly shattered. Then, a 1,000-meter-tall golden-armored giant holding a shield appeared in the midst of the divine fire fragments that filled the sky. It was none other than his eternal true body. The current Ning Fan had already lost his strongest defense, the God-exterminating shield. What replaced it was the even stronger primordial true body. Only by activating the eternal true body would he be in his strongest form. How formidable his immemorial true body was, among all the Eastern Skies emperors, only Emperor Chong he knew. However, after today, the entire world would know about it. Is this his immemorial true body? It's actually not damaged by the 9 dragons' heavenly fire shield at all. The fifth prince's expression changed. He activated the river diagram mirror again. Countless rays of divine light swept out from the mirror and turned into divine swords that filled the sky, slashing at Ning Fan. Each of those divine swords was incomparably sharp. They were comparable to the 12 Nirvana flying swords. When hundreds and thousands of divine swords attacked at the same time, they could severely injure an ordinary 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperor. However, when thousands of divine swords landed on Ning Fan's giant body, they could not even leave a scratch on him. This scene made countless Eastern Heaven cultivators who were watching the battle from afar dumbfounded. Profound torrential rain. Heavenly horse 13 seals. Wind fire divine lightning incantation. Immemorial heavenly immortal finger. Great grade water spout. The fifth prince struck out one technique after another. Dazzling light shone and tore the sky apart. However, it could not break the defense of Ning Fan's immemorial true body. He could not be injured. He could not be injured. No matter how hard the fifth prince tried, he still could not hurt Ning Fan at all. The defense of this immemorial true body was a little heaven-defying. Qi Ning Fan suddenly took a step forward and disappeared from where he stood. Almost at the same time, the giant body of golden flame appeared in front of the fifth prince, enveloping him within the range of the cross-shaped halo. Within the range of the halo, hundreds and thousands of divine abilities appeared passively and concentrated on the fifth prince. The fifth prince was so frightened that he immediately escaped from the range of the cross-shaped halo, causing the concentrated attacks to miss. Ning Fan continued to chase after him, closing in on him again and again. He wanted to use his divine abilities to attack the fifth prince again. The fifth prince escaped from the range of the halo again and again, causing the concentrated attacks to miss. In the blink of an eye, Ning Fan, who had activated his immemorial true body, had already fought more than 10 rounds with the fifth prince. In the end, Ning Fan still could not get close to the fifth prince. This was because the heaven sealing technique was ineffective against the fifth prince who was protected by the ancestral cloud. It was very difficult for him to turn the fifth prince into a live target for the concentrated attacks. Occasionally, he would rely on the power of the sun, moon and stars' steel to smash the fifth prince until he vomited blood, but it was only a minor injury. The ancestral cloud's defense was too strong. He needed a stronger attack to break through the defense and cause serious injuries. He needed a stronger attack, putting aside the concentrated attacks of the cross-shaped halo. Among all of his techniques, only the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike seemed to be more powerful than the sun, moon and stars' steel. Damn it! Damn it! How can a mere immortal venerable be this powerful? In the past 10 rounds, I have used more than 10 types of dragon horse forbidden techniques, but none of them could break through the defense of his immemorial true body. His defense is even stronger than my ancestral cloud protective body. I sacrificed 30 million years of my cultivation to summon a trace of ancestral cloud, but it can't even compare to this kid's immemorial true body. How is this possible? How can there be such a heaven-defying immemorial true body in this world? Boom! The sun, moon and stars' steel launched another attack, sending the fifth prince flying backwards while coughing out blood. His face gradually showed signs of defeat. I can't defeat him. I still can't defeat him. He had already summoned his ancestral cloud protective body, but he still couldn't defeat Ning Fan. He had almost exhausted all of his knowledge, but he still couldn't hurt Ning Fan's immemorial true body at all. Even when facing his big brother who was at the Nine Tribulations realm, Long Xing had never been at such a disadvantage. Now that he was facing Ning Fan who had unleashed his immemorial true body and possessed a heaven-defying defense, he really felt helpless. Fortunately, even though he couldn't defeat Ning Fan also couldn't injure him severely. That's all there is to him. You have the heaven-defying defense of your immemorial true body, but I also have a trace of ancestral cloud to protect me. I can't hurt you, but could it be that you can injure me severely? Thinking of this, the fifth prince felt a little better. Just as he was thinking of some sinister tricks to see if he could harm Ning Fan without breaking his defense, he suddenly saw Ning Fan's true body stop in the sky and no longer chase after him. At this moment, Ning Fan's true body dispersed the golden flame shield on his left hand, leaving both of his fists empty. Under the cross-shaped light halo and the black and golden light that surrounded his body shone brilliantly, making him look like an ancient devil god. Even the sun, moon and stars' steel that had been suppressing the fifth prince was kept away by Ning Fan. This kid has both of his fists empty. What is he trying to do? Why isn't he chasing me anymore? Moreover, he even kept that powerful ancient steel magic treasure. Could it be that he saw that my ancestral cloud's defense is too hard to break, so he wants to use some tricks to harm me? While the fifth prince was on high alert, he suddenly saw Ning Fan throwing 2 punches at him from a distance of several thousand zhang away. In the shadow of the landslide, 2 rays of fist light that contained boundless devil chi tore heaven and earth apart, twisting the space and directly landed on the fifth prince's body. Fortunately, the fifth prince had the ancestral cloud to protect him. The power of such a long-range ancient devil mountain breaking strike was weaker than direct physical contact. It was not enough to break his defense, and the damage was far less than the sun, moon and stars' steel. Oh. This kid has kept his magic treasure. So he wants to fight me from a distance with his bare fists. How arrogant of him. He actually wants to hurt me with such a powerful fist light. Wishful thinking. The fifth prince's face was filled with disdain. After blocking Ning Fan's fist light, he counterattacked with a series of attacks. Ning Fan ignored the fifth prince's attacks. The fifth prince could not break his defense at all. He only needed to focus on waving his fists, 4 punches, 6 punches, 8 punches, 40 punches, 60 punches, 80 punches. In the beginning, the fifth prince seemed to be able to block Ning Fan's fist light with ease. Gradually, however, he began to struggle against the ancient devil mountain breaking strike. Ning Fan threw 1 punch after another. Each punch was stronger than the previous one. His punches were like the rising wind and the rising water. 100 punches in a single breath were like a rainstorm. After 3 breaths, the fifth prince could no longer block the punches. He began to be pushed back by the punches. 5 breaths later, the fifth prince was not just pushed back a few steps. Every time the punches landed on him, he would be sent flying. The punches became stronger and stronger. Finally, they began to break through his ancestral cloud's defense, causing him to be injured. The injuries became heavier and heavier, giving the fifth prince a sense of crisis. When it reached the 800th punch, the fifth prince would spurt out blood and his internal organs would be dislocated. This was the mountain-breaking strike of 800 ancient devils. Finally, the fifth prince's expression changed drastically. In the past, Ning Fan was able to kill enlightened being Bailu with the 800 ancient devils mountain-breaking strike before his 4 elements entered the eternal ancient realm. The current Ning Fan's cultivation base was no longer the same as before. The mountain-breaking attack of the 800 ancient devils was more than a few times stronger than before. However, 800 was far from his limit. Above 800, Ning Fan had also comprehended the 3,000 ancient devils mountain-breaking strike. After 800 punches, Ning Fan's fist light suddenly intensified. It was as if the entire ancient devil mountain-breaking strike had risen to another level. Ning Fan's punches became even faster. He could throw out 200 punches in a single breath. The fist intent became purer and purer, leaving only the ancient devil Tao of destruction as the dominant force. The Tao drove the fist, and the fist was the Tao. 800 punches, 900 punches, 1,000 punches, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 punches. Previously, when Ning Fan used the 3,000 ancient devils mountain-breaking strike under the underworld earth divine tree, the backlash caused his physical body to collapse. However, it was no longer the case now. His cultivation was much higher than before. Back then, although he had the God-exterminating shield to protect him, he was separated from the shield. Now, he and the shield had merged into one. Although there was still a backlash from the 3,000 hit combo, it was not unbearable under the miraculous healing effects of the cross-shaped halo. The He-2 mirror was destroyed by Ning Fan. The fifth prince's protective Zhu Yun was also destroyed. Ning Fan only used 20 breaths of time to finish the 3,000 punches. 20 breaths of time ago, the fifth prince was still looking down on Ning Fan for using his bare fists to fight against him. After 20 breaths of time, he was so frightened by the ancient Devil Mountain breaking strike that his face turned pale. Ning Fan, who had hit 3,000 consecutive times, was simply a god of slaughter. With a single punch, half of the fifth prince's gigantic body was directly reduced to nothingness. With another punch, his entire physical body was completely annihilated, leaving only his true spirit, which was still struggling to withstand Ning Fan's storm of punches. Cultivating a true spirit was indeed powerful. Ning Fan's 3,000 consecutive hits had even broken Zhu Yun's defense, but he still could not destroy the fifth prince's true spirit. Even though he could not kill him, his true spirit was still unavoidably injured by Ning Fan. It was on the verge of death, like a withered leaf in the wind. He was horrified. "Seventh brother, save me! Save me!" In his despair, the fifth prince begged the seventh prince for help. However, how would the seventh prince dare to save him? 20 breaths of time ago, the seventh prince was still feeling proud of himself for suppressing 3 Eastern Heaven Immortal Emperors by himself. 20 breaths of time later, the seventh prince was already frightened by Ning Fan, who was like a devil god. He lost all of his will to fight and fled. Is he still human? Destroying an innate magical treasure, Zhu Yun and fifth brother's immemorial true body. What kind of fist technique was this? It was simply unheard of. Even if he was confident in his unbreakable Vajra body, he would not dare to fight against Ning Fan's iron fists. However, he could not escape. Ning Fan stretched out his left hand and caught the fifth prince's dying true spirit in his hand. Then, he threw out a punch with his right fist that carried the power of 3,000 consecutive strikes. The seventh prince, who was trying to escape in a panic, was badly injured. The second punch destroyed half of his body. The third punch destroyed half of the seventh prince's body. Only his heavily injured true spirit was left, and he was sent flying by Ning Fan's punches. 3 punches. Only 3 punches. The seventh prince, who was famous for his unbreakable Vajra body and had the protection of Zhu Yun, was defeated by Ning Fan's 3 punches. Ning Fan grabbed the seventh prince's true spirit in his right hand. He did not give the 2 dragons the chance to beg for mercy or insult him. He directly sealed their true spirits and locked them in the profound Yin world. At this point, none of the 5 dragons who came today managed to escape. All of them were captured by Ning Fan. The entire vast sect pass was silent. Everyone was so shocked that they could not close their mouths, including Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the other Immortal Emperors. Ning Fan withdrew his eternal true body and ignored Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others. He looked extremely exhausted, but he was looking at a wisp of cloud light in his palm with interest. It was a wisp of cloud light that he took out when he broke the 5th and 7th prince's protective Zhu Yun. It was the origin of their Zhu Yun. In this wisp of cloud light, there was an extremely massive sage will that was resisting Ning Fan's capture. At the same time, when Ning Fan captured the 5 dragons, the group of immortal emperors in Taiyuan Ferry was arguing about the matter of Long Qi. Humph. Isn't Lord Alliance Lord being too protective? Just because you have some friendship with that Ning Fan, you sent 3 immortal emperors to save him. Isn't that a little too selfish? Punish him severely. We must punish him severely. This Ning Fan actually dared to use force against the immortal emperors of the foreign races of the 10th route without any orders, causing them to send several immortal emperors out of the water and ruin the situation of our 11th route. If we don't punish him, I won't accept it. There were actually a few immortal emperors who requested for Ning Fan to be severely punished just because he had broken the heavens in the 11th route. Chapter 11:19. In the Taurus Palace at the Taiyuan Ferry, a few immortal emperors led by the 8 Visions Emperor were describing Ning Fan's series of mistakes ever since he started to lead the army. The 8 Visions Emperor was one of the vice leaders of the World River meeting this time. He was a cautious person and belonged to the peacemaking faction. As a matter of fact, not all of the cultivators in the meeting advocated an all-out war with the alien races. Even though the cultivators came to the World River to protect the Eastern Heaven, they all had different opinions on how to defend the World River and to what extent it was appropriate to fight the alien races. Since ancient times, the attitude of the cultivators of the Four Heavens towards the alien races in the World River was filled with both hatred and respect. They hated them as if they were ghosts, but at the same time, they respected them as if they were gods. It was full of contradictions. 32 million years ago, the World River invaded the Eastern Heaven on a large scale. It could be said that it was the largest rebellion of the alien races in the history of the Eastern Heaven. In the history of the Eastern World River, there was only one major rebellion, but there were countless minor ones. Not to mention those minor rebellions, the matter of cultivators crossing the World River to the other heavenly realms was already a huge risk. According to the incomplete statistics of the Taurus Palace, in the past 100 million years, about 60% of the travelers were attacked by the alien races. The lucky ones could swallow their anger and give the alien races some benefits to make them retreat in satisfaction. The unlucky ones could not survive even if they were given money. If they could not defeat the enemy and escape with their lives, they could only be eaten by the alien races. More than 30% of the travelers would end up in the stomach of the attackers. Less than 70% of the travelers could successfully cross the river and reach the other heavenly realms in the end. Because of such a high mortality rate, the cultivators of the Four Heavens would not go to the other heavenly realms without an important reason. Even the ancient monsters would not cross the river too often when they were traveling. It showed how fearful they were of the alien races in the World River. Although it was not easy for the ancient monsters with extraordinary strength to meet with misfortune in the World River, everyone would be unlucky sometimes. What if this person happened to encounter a few immortal emperors of the alien races looking for food when he was halfway across the river? Hee. If they encountered such a situation, even the immortal emperors of the Four Heavens would not have full confidence to survive. Luck was also an important factor in whether the crossing of the river would succeed or not. Most of the cultivators would never cross the border river in their entire lives. They would be very satisfied if they could just stay in the heaven realm where they were born and raised. For such people, as long as the alien tribes in the realm river did not attack the heaven realm, they could attack the travelers however they wanted. They did not care about this matter. The ones who used the border river the most frequently were the superpowers of the Four Heavens. Among them, the Four Immortal sect was the one who used it the most. These superpowers didn't just operate in one domain, they also had to move around in other heavenly realms. This was especially true for the four great sects. They had the duty to supervise the four great heavenly realms, so it was inevitable that they would often send people to cross the river to the various great heavenly realms. For example, during the Sen Luo chaos in the Eastern Heaven a few years ago, the Four Seas sect dispatched a large number of people to the Eastern Heaven. Among them was Li Xiaoxiao, whom Ning Fan was familiar with. Many of these superpowers had made agreements with the outsider race. Every year, they would offer a large number of young boys and girls to the outsider race, and pray for peace and quiet. This action was called the sacrifice of the river god by the people of the world. It was a foolish but helpless action. The young boys and girls who were used as sacrifices were indeed pitiful. However, compared to the benefits of those superpowers, the lives of a few sacrifices were insignificant. However, it did not mean that the outsider race would be grateful to you just because you were respectful and worshipped them as if they were gods. Even though the superpowers of the Four Heavens would offer a large number of young boys and girls every year, there were still a considerable number of greedy outsiders who kept attacking the travelers who passed by. Some people said that the outsider race was a group of ungrateful wolves. However, no one dared to provoke the evil wolves. When immortal sovereign Zido was still alive, these outsiders did not dare to act presumptuously. However, in the Vipralopa cultivation world, no one could do anything to these outsiders. There was not much meaning in recruiting them. Attacking them was also a futile act of courting death. In the long history of the Realm River, there were countless ancient monsters who went to the bottom of the Realm River in anger. Almost none of them could return alive. This was the general environment of the realm river in the four heavens. It was precisely because of such a general environment that when Ning Fan fought with Long Qian on that day, he directly attacked him as soon as they met. Long Qian was surprised that there was still such a tough bone like Ning Fan in the eastern heaven. It turned out that not all of them were softies. In such a general environment, people's attitude towards the outsider race was inevitably distorted. Because of this, Ning Fan's carelessness caused 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race to come out of the water to seek revenge. This made some immortal emperors of the eastern heaven who were in awe of the outsider race feel uneasy. Is the outsider race so easy to provoke? If they were a soft persimmon, anyone would go and pinch them. However, the outsider race was not a soft persimmon. The immortal emperors of the peace faction only wanted to protect the realm river and the gateway to the eastern heaven. At the same time, they also wanted to recover the lost passes on the water. Even though the outsider race's evil intentions to attack the eastern heaven were obvious, these people still had a trace of hope. The original intention of the peace faction to recover the lost passes was just to show the outsider race the powerful strength of the Realm River Alliance army. They wanted to make the outsider race feel fear and retreat. In the end, they wanted to make peace with the Eastern Heaven cultivators again. The situation had not developed to the worst point yet. The peace faction did not really want to fight to the death with the outsider race. If Ning Fan's matter of capturing Long Xi alive did not anger the outsider race, it would undoubtedly be the best deterrent. It could make the outsider race realize the strength of the Alliance army. However, Ning Fan's action suddenly attracted 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race. It was conceivable that the immortal emperors of the outsider race under the 11th river were already furious because of this. As a result, a good thing became a bad thing. These peace faction turned their heads again and criticized Ning Fan. They also wanted to punish him a little to appease the anger of the outsider race. Killing the enemy in front of the formation was originally a merit. However, they were punished instead. This action seemed absurd. However, whether it was the history of cultivation or the history of mortals, there was no lack of such cases. The peace faction did not have a personal grudge against Ning Fan. There was only one reason why they suddenly targeted Ning Fan: these people were too cowardly. Humph. Lord Alliance leader is too protective of his own people. Just because you have some friendship with that Ning Fan, you sent 3 immortal emperors to save him. Aren't you a little too selfish? Punish him severely. He must be punished severely. This Ning Fan actually dared to start a war with the immortal emperors of the outsider race without any orders. He caused the outsider race to send 5 immortal emperors out of the water and ruined our great situation. If this young man is not punished, this old man will not accept it. This time, 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race came out of the water. What about the next time? If we allow Ning Fan to continue acting recklessly and cause an all-out war between the outsider race and our Eastern Heaven, who will bear the responsibility? The Alliance leader? Or the Vice-Alliance leader? Or the main generals like you? There's no need to punish Ning Fan too severely. After all, this Ning Fan is not someone to be trifled with. This old man thinks that we don't have to be too harsh on fellow Daoist Ning in private. However, we have to do a good job on the surface. At most, we can just compensate fellow Daoist Ning. Not only must we show the outsider race our strength, but we must also show them our sincerity in seeking peace. Only then will there be a possibility of peace with the outsider race again, and the peace of the world river will be restored. The 8 Visions Emperor and the others spoke one after another. The more they spoke, the more excited they became. Among the cultivators present, there were not only immortal emperors but also some immortal venerables and immortal kings who stayed behind to guard the Taiyuan crossing. When they heard the words of the 8 Visions Emperor and the others, many of them secretly nodded in agreement. Of course, there were also some cultivators of the pro-war faction who reprimanded the Eight Visions Emperor and the others for their cowardice. The main general, Great Emperor Li Jun, was one of them. He had a close relative who died in the hands of the World River. He could not wait to start an all-out war with the outsider race. When he heard that Ning Fan had captured Long Xian alive, he was the happiest one among the emperors. Naturally, he supported Ning Fan with all his might. Similarly, Emperor Tsang, Emperor Jinheng, Emperor Nyoheng and a few others also supported Ning Fan. Among them, as the alliance leader, Emperor Tsang had to consider the reputation of the pro-war faction and the pro-peace faction. There were many things that he could not say directly. Thus, he could only hint Li Jun and the others to say it. Cowards. A bunch of cowards. Even a fool can see that the outsider race wants to fall into the Eastern Heaven's hands again. You actually still want to ask for peace with the outsider race. You really don't know life from death. Brother Ning can capture the enemy's immortal emperor with his immortal venerable realm cultivation base. Which one of you can do that? Such a great contribution was actually said to be a sinner who doesn't care about the overall situation. Don't you have any shame? Emperor Nyoheng scolded. Ning Fan was his sworn brother. Naturally, he did not like others to criticize Ning Fan. Once he started scolding him, he really did not recognize anyone. Many of the cultivators of the Eastern Heaven who used to call him brothers in the past were scolded by him until their faces turned red. There are 10,000 laws in the world. All are rewards and punishments. The matter of the alliance meeting also needs to be clear about rewards and punishments. Meritorious deeds are meritorious deeds. How can it be said to be wrong? As for appeasing the outsider race's anger by punishing fellow Taoist Ning, you actually can think of such a stupid thing. Humph. Isn't it like cutting one's own flesh to feed the wolf? If the wolf doesn't retreat, it will first destroy your great wall. Emperor Li Jun sneered. Humph. Is the overall situation more important or personal honor and disgrace? As long as the Eastern Heaven is peaceful, who can't make a little sacrifice? So what if it's Ning Fan? Is he superior to others? It's not like we want him to die. We just want him to be slightly punished and bow his head to the outsider race. Is it that difficult? Dongling Immortal Wang, who was in favor of peace, retorted with a red face. Then why don't fellow Taoist Dongling sacrifice himself first? Emperor Jinheng said in a deep voice. Seeing both sides arguing more and more fiercely, Emperor Tsang finally came out and stopped everyone's quarrel. Then, he closed the coffin and concluded that Ning Fan was meritorious and not guilty. He should be rewarded and not punished. As soon as these words came out, the people in favor of war were naturally happy. However, the people in favor of peace had an ugly expression. They secretly thought that Emperor Tsang was biased. First, he sent people to save Ning Fan. Then, he used all his strength to cover for Ning Fan. Who didn't know that Emperor Tsang and his master, Taoist Mu Song, had a good relationship with Ning Fan? Hearing that Ning Fan was not guilty, Emperor Yuan Dan smiled, but his heart was slightly regretful. He had been hiding his hostility towards Ning Fan since the beginning. He did not want anyone to know about it. Seeing that Ning Fan would not be punished, Emperor Yuan Dan suddenly said indifferently. Merits and demerits are secondary. This old man thinks that we should be more concerned about the safety of fellow Taoist Ning and the others. Even though the Alliance Master has sent the Thunder Immortal Tao Companion and fellow Taoist Ji Zhuang to save fellow Taoist Ning, no one can be sure if they can really save fellow Taoist Ning with just 3-6 Tribulation Immortal Emperors. You should know that the enemy is 5 Immortal Emperors of the outsider race. It's not easy to escape from the pursuit of 5 Immortal Emperors of the outsider race back to Taiyuan Crossing. We don't know if they can return safely. It's really worrying. As soon as these words came out, the people in favor of war frowned. On the contrary, the people in favor of peace's expression eased a lot. Because of Emperor Yuan Dan's words, the people in favor of war began to worry about the safety of Ning Fan's group. They were worried that they would suffer heavy losses in the pursuit of the 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race. On the other hand, the people in favor of peace wished that more of Ning Fan's group would die so that they could appease the anger of the outsider race. If possible, it would be better if Ning Fan, the culprit, died. It would be easier for them to negotiate with the outsider race in the future. Fellow Taoist Yuan Dan, you worry too much. Even though the enemy is strong, we aren't that much weaker. Needless to say about fellow Taoist Ning's strength, the Alliance Master has also sent 3 immortal emperors to help fellow Taoist Ning's group retreat. Even if they are pursued by 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race, they won't suffer heavy losses, right? Emperor Jinheng pondered for a moment and said. Fellow Taoist Jinheng, you're wrong. Since the immortal emperors of the outsider race dared to come out of the water to seek revenge, how could they not be fully prepared? I reckon that among the 5 immortal emperors of the outsider race, at least one of them is a 7th tribulation immortal emperor. Moreover, they must have taken some precautions against fellow Taoist Ning's techniques. Among those of the same level, the immortal emperors of the outsider race are stronger than the immortal emperors of the eastern heaven. Today, the enemy has the advantage in terms of numbers and cultivation base. Moreover, they have the geographical advantage of the world river. They must have taken precautions against fellow Taoist Ning's techniques in advance. I reckon that even if fellow Taoist Ning's group succeeds in retreating to the Taiyuan crossing, they will certainly suffer heavy losses. There might even be fellow immortal emperors who will die because of this. I, Yuan Dan, am neither in favor of war nor peace. However, I have no choice but to say something fair here. The Alliance Master really shouldn't push the other immortal emperors into the pit of fire for his own selfish reasons and risk their lives with fellow Taoist Ning. The meaning of his words was as clear as day. Today, in order to make up for Ning Fan's mistake, Tsang Di could send his Thunder Immortal Tao companion and Great Emperor Ji Zhao to their deaths. Next time, Tsang Di could also send other people to their deaths. Anyone could be sacrificed by Tsang Di. Yuan Dan Great Emperor's words were like a needle hidden in silk floss. As soon as he said that, the expressions of most of the immortal emperors changed. Even a few of the immortal emperors who were in favor of war were moved. I, Tsang Di, am doing this for the sake of the overall situation. I have absolutely no selfish motives. If there are really fellow immortal emperors who die because of fellow Taoist Ning, I, Tsang Di, will bear all the responsibility. Tsang Di suddenly stood up and said with a serious expression. Humph. Alliance Master's words are nice to hear. Why don't I see you personally going to the 11th path to save that Ning Fan? Someone said sarcastically. However, after Tsang Di glared at him, he was so shocked that he shut his mouth. Even though he shut his mouth, his heart was still unconvinced. What everyone thought in their hearts was not something that Tsang Di could decide. Seeing that his casual provocation made the hearts of the higher-ups of the alliance have different opinions, Yuan Dan Great Emperor's face did not show it. However, he was quite proud of himself in his heart. He secretly ridiculed the so-called Realm River Alliance as just a bunch of motley crew. He was also secretly speculating in his heart. If he really disbanded the Realm River Alliance with just a few words, and the alien race fell into the eastern sky again, would he be able to use this to ask for some credit from the people behind the alien race? The combined forces of the army were not united. They were hesitant to move forward. Snobbery made people fight and even kill each other. Interesting. Interesting. What a pity. What a pity. The Thunder Immortal Tao companion and fellow Taoist Ji Zhuang are all people who have a strong sense of brotherhood. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone to save Ning Fan despite knowing that the 11th path was dangerous. However, the alien races are too strong. There are 5 immortal emperors. I'm afraid that fellow Taoist Lei Xian and the others are doomed. Yuan Dan Great Emperor's face was filled with pity. He sighed again and again. Every sentence he said made the hearts of the people fall apart. The morale that was boosted by Ning Fan's capture of the alien race's immortal emperors was about to be destroyed by a few words from the Yuan Dan Great Emperor and the peacemaking faction. Tsang Di was greatly disappointed. Suddenly, an urgent report was sent back from the 11th path. Everyone's heart tightened. How could Ning Fan and the others be defeated by the 5 immortal emperors so quickly? Otherwise, why would the report be sent back? How many days have passed? The bad news has actually been sent back. The alien races are actually so terrifying. When the report was sent to Tsang Di, it had not been opened yet. Tsang Di's heart was extremely heavy. Even though he knew that Ning Fan's strength was astonishing, he had not seen it with his own eyes. It was just hearsay. Perhaps, the news of fellow Taoist Lei Xian and the others' deaths would be sent back in this report, or perhaps, the news of Ning Fan's death would be sent back. Tsang Di's heart became heavier and heavier. He flipped through the report. However, after just a glance, his complicated expression disappeared. His handsome face was filled with astonishment. There was not much joy on his face. It was because the content of the report had exceeded his imagination. It made him subconsciously doubt the authenticity of the report. Capturing 5 immortal emperors alive. Among them, there are even 2 7th tribulation immortals. How is this possible? Ning Fan is not a god. He is an immortal venerable and not a quasi-saint. How is it possible for him to do such a thing? Could it be that this report was fabricated by the alien races? Sigh. Has the news of the defeat at the front line been sent back? Since the Alliance Master is so shocked, it seems to be a rather serious piece of bad news. It's most likely that some immortal emperors have fallen. I wonder which fellow Taoist has followed in fellow Taoist Han Yun's footsteps. It really hurts my heart. The alien races deserve to be killed. They really deserve to be killed. The Primal Core Great Emperor pretended to be sad and angry. However, he could not wait for the alien races to kill more immortal emperors of the Eastern Heaven. He kept saying that the alien races deserved to be killed, but his words were destroying the morale of the cultivators at the scene. More fellow Taoist immortal emperors have been killed. A few of them have fallen. Why didn't the Alliance Master say anything? Could it be that he doesn't dare to bear this mistake? Someone said angrily. His anger could not hide his fear towards the alien races. This old man said that this Ning Fan kid is a troublemaker. So what? This old man was right. This kind of person should be severely punished. The immortal emperor of the Peace sect was furious on the surface, but he was secretly happy in his heart. He thought that since the immortal emperor of his side had died, and the captured Long Ji's true spirit had most likely been rescued by the foreign race, the hatred of the foreign race towards the eastern sky should be reduced a little. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Tsang Di, waiting for his answer. Tsang Di regained his senses from his daze and felt deeply ashamed. He looked like a young man, but he was not a real one. In any case, he was a figure who had lived for tens of millions of years. He was actually stunned by a piece of information. He really lost his composure. The information was not fake. After all, there was a recording of Ning Fan defeating the Dragon Horse 5 emperors at the end of the report. It was truly a hearty victory. Ha ha ha. Tsang Di no longer concealed his surprise and laughed loudly. Everyone was confused by Tsang Di's laughter. Could it be that the Alliance Master has lost his mind because of the great defeat at the front line? Someone secretly doubted. Yuan Dan Emperor's heart sank. He had a bad feeling. May I ask the Alliance Master how many casualties there are in the 11th front line? Yuan Dan Emperor asked carefully. Casualties? Ha ha ha, there are injuries but no deaths. Barely satisfactory, barely satisfactory. Daoist Ning and the others did not retreat from Guangzhong Pass. Instead, they fought against the 5 alien immortal emperors in front of the pass. With the efforts of Daoist Ning, Daoist Lei Xian and the others, they actually captured all 5 alien immortal emperors alive. None of them escaped. Among them were 2 seventh tribulation immortal emperors. What do you think? After this great victory, no one will say anything bad about Daoist Ning anymore, right? If even capturing 6 immortal emperors is a crime, no one in this world will dare to claim the credit. What? 5 alien immortal emperors were captured again? There were even 2 seventh tribulation immortal emperors among them. Everyone's expression changed abruptly. Even Ba Jing, Su Kong, Shen Kong, Tai Li and the other 8th tribulation immortal emperors could not sit still. They suddenly stood up, their faces were trembling with excitement. Even old Devil Bai, who was sleeping soundly on the tea table, suddenly woke up. He slapped the table and stood up, snatching the report from Emperor Tsang's hand. He looked at the report in the jade slip in shock, dumbfounded. Capturing alive was much more difficult than killing. Ning Fan and the others actually captured 5 alien immortal emperors, including 2 seventh tribulation immortal emperors. Even the arrogant old Devil Bai did not think that he could do such a shocking thing. But Ning Fan and the others actually did it. There were only a few of them, 1 immortal venerable and 3 sixth tribulation immortal emperors. Could it be a fake report? The report is true. Tsangdi's words shattered everyone's fantasy. He smiled faintly and took back the report from old Devil Bai's hand. The report is true. It's absolutely true. Ning Fan and the others actually achieved an unprecedented victory with just 1 venerable 3 tribulation immortal emperors. This is really amazing. Everyone was shocked by the content of the report. Other than the people who supported peace, everyone was pleasantly surprised. Their morale was greatly boosted. They even felt like they were in a dream. Impossible. The Thunder Immortal Dao couple is strong, but it's impossible for them to capture 5 alien immortal emperors with just 1 venerable 3 tribulation immortal emperors. It's impossible for them to even defeat them. It's even difficult for them to protect themselves. The Thunder Immortal Dao couple doesn't have this ability at all. How can we prove that the report is true based on the Alliance Master's words? This report must be fabricated by the Alliance Master. He probably wants to use it to stabilize the morale of the army. Some of the people who supported peace still did not believe it and voiced their doubts. Tsangdi's eyes turned cold. He glanced at that person and said in a deep voice, "Don't talk nonsense without evidence. Otherwise, you will have to bear the consequences. If you don't believe it, you can see it for yourself." Tsangdi made a series of hand seals towards the jade slip. All of a sudden, countless fragments of light flew out from the jade slip, turning into scenes of battle that appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Without a doubt, these battle scenes could prove the authenticity of the report. However, these battle scenes were too shocking. As soon as they were played, the entire hall of the Taurus Palace fell into silence. It was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. There was no other reason. Not to mention those who did not believe the authenticity of the report, even those who believed it also thought that this unprecedented victory was led by the Thunder Immortal Dao couple who had the strongest strength. At the very least, they thought that the 3 venerable 3 tribulation Immortal Dao couple had made contributions in exchange for this great victory. However, the truth of the matter made everyone's mouth drop. Yes, Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the other 2 immortal emperors did contribute in this battle. However, they did not obtain any results. From the beginning to the end, they only played a slight role in delaying the enemy. They helped Ning Fan share part of the enemy's combat power, giving him the opportunity to defeat the enemy. From the battle scenes, even someone as strong as Thunder Immortal True Monarch was suppressed by the enemy immortal emperors from the beginning to the end. As for Machina and the others, they were in an even more difficult situation. The three immortal emperors of the Eastern Heaven were beaten by the immortal emperors of the foreign races to the point where they could not fight back at all. On the contrary, Ning Fan, who was just a mere immortal venerable, easily crushed all the enemy immortal emperors. No one could stop him. In the battle scenes, there were the two steels of sun, moon and stars which were comparable to mid-grade innate magic treasures. There was the cross-shaped halo which could instantly kill an immortal emperor. There was the primordial true body which could remain unscathed under the tide-like attacks of the seven tribulation immortal emperors. The strength that Ning Fan displayed made the scalps of all the immortal emperors on the scene numb. Even old Devil Bai, who was at the ninth tribulation immortal Tao realm, was shocked by the scenes of him crushing the immortal emperors. If it was him, perhaps he could also defeat the five immortal emperors on the other side. However, he would not be able to crush them completely. It was also impossible for him to do so without suffering any injuries. He would certainly have to pay a certain price. Besides, if the other party had the intention to escape, he did not have the confidence to capture them alive. How could it be so easy to capture an immortal emperor alive? It was even harder than killing them. Ning Fan captured the immortal emperors alive by relying on the heaven-fixing technique of the Eastern Heaven ancestor. He did not know this technique. To Ning Fan, the heaven-fixing technique was just one of the many trump cards that he had. Good young man. I didn't expect such a talented young man to appear in the future. Old Devil Bai exclaimed. He who had never been convinced by others was actually convinced by Ning Fan. There could only be one greatest devil of the Eastern Heaven in an era. As the greatest devil of the Eastern Heaven in different eras, old Devil Bai had always looked down on Ning Fan. That contempt did not lessen even after Ning Fan defeated Chong He. Old Devil Bai did not know about Great Emperor Chong He's concealment. He only knew that when he was young, before he entered the Immortal Emperor realm, he had defeated a sixth tribulation Immortal Emperor. He seemed to be able to do what Ning Fan could do. He might even be able to do it better than Ning Fan. Who was Ning Fan? However, at this moment, old Devil Bai deeply realized that he could not be compared to Ning Fan at all when he was young. Even if he was at the ninth tribulation immortal realm now, he might only be slightly stronger than Ning Fan, who was at the immortal venerable realm. In terms of techniques, he was far inferior to Ning Fan, monster. A mere immortal venerable could actually do what he could not. He was truly a monster. If this young man couldn't become the greatest devil of the Eastern Heaven of this generation, who else could? A bunch of fuckers still want to punish such a hero. What a bunch of idiots. Yuan Dan Emperor still maintained his sage-like smile on his face. However, the slight twitching of his lips clearly showed that his heart was not calm at all. He was not happy about Ning Fan's brilliant battle achievements at all. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. A mere immortal venerable could actually defeat 5 immortal emperors of the dragon horses without any strength to fight back. Moreover, he even summoned a wisp of sacred dragon ancestor cloud. How could he still be defeated? That young man Ning Fan has already become so strong. He is just an immortal venerable. Just an immortal venerable. Moreover, the He-2 mirror was actually broken by this young man. That is. Shit stirrer. That damn shit stirrer. Without the He-2 mirror, I'm afraid the plan of the Grand Divine Oracle of the other races will change a little. She will certainly be furious. This young man deserves to be killed. Humph. It seems like I need to find a chance to get rid of this young man secretly. Now that ancient chaos is dead, this old man no longer has anything to worry about. It doesn't matter even if I kill this young man. As for his cross-shaped light ring, this old man already has a way to avoid it. As for his primordial true body, that is a variable. However, if this old man can borrow the hands of the other races. Hee. Perhaps, there is still a chance for me to obtain the key to the stone gate of heaven desolation in this young man's yin-yang locket. Yuan Dan Emperor suppressed the turbulent waves in his heart and secretly thought of a vicious plan. Even so, he still could not help but admit defeat. The strength that Ning Fan had shown really made it difficult for him to plot against him. He needed to think of a long-term plan. It seems like I need to find a chance to discuss this with Maha. Ning Fan did not care about the tremors of the Taiyuan ferry. At this moment, he was in the clouds above the Guangzhong Pass, trying to refine the wisp of cloud light that he had seized. Even though it was just a wisp of cloud light, it seemed to contain an extremely profound transformation of the profound gate. That transformation was something that even he who was at the second level of the celestial being realm could not understand. This could only mean one thing. The transformation of the divine ability contained in this cloud light was beyond his comprehension of the second level of the celestial being realm. What kind of concept was that? A third level of the celestial being realm would have eyesight that was comparable to that of a primitive saint. A second level of the celestial being realm would have eyesight that surpassed most of the quasi-saints who were at the Vipralopa stage. Even with Ning Fan's eyesight, he still could not see through this cloud. It was enough to say that the transformation of the divine ability contained in this cloud had already exceeded the scope of the second level and reached the third level. Sacred Dragon Manifestation. Ancestral Cloud Protection. This was the incantation that the fifth prince, Long Mang, had shouted. In addition to the fact that this wisp of cloud light actually contained the will of a saint, Ning Fan was 90% sure that the ancestral cloud which made the 5 dragon horse princes and the 7 dragon horse princes' strength increase tremendously was a type of cloud technique of the third level of the saint. Auspicious clouds were auspicious clouds. Many second-level cultivators like to cultivate auspicious clouds to add the transformation of their divine abilities. However, those were just the auspicious clouds of the second level. Ning Fan had never been interested in this level of auspicious cloud technique. However, if it was the third level of the auspicious cloud technique, it would be an exception. If I forcefully devour this wisp of cloud light and integrate it into my primordial true body, I wonder if it can increase the defense of my primordial true body to another level. Ning Fan tried to erase the will of the saint in the cloud light. He had even devoured the dust tree which contained the will of the Tribulation Lord. Why would he be afraid of a mere saint's will? Of course, he was not afraid of it. However, erasing the will of the saint would take a lot of time. It was not something that could be done in a short period of time. 6 days later, Ning Fan still had not completely erased the will of the saint in the cloud light. However, the formation of the Guangzhong Pass had already been repaired. It was time to continue attacking the next pass. He had no choice but to temporarily put aside the matter of refining the cloud and set off again to lead the team to attack the next pass. The battleship carried Ning Fan and his group along the unobservable magnetic path of heaven and earth. Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others did not leave. All 3 of them were injured. Originally, they should return to the Taiyuan ferry to treat their injuries. However, when they thought about the fact that Ning Fan had captured 5 immortal emperors of the foreign races, they hesitated. Ning Fan had taken down 6 immortal emperors in total. This time, he had really broken through the heavens of the 11th water path. Who knows what kind of dangers and revenge would await him in the next pass. It was necessary for them to stay by Ning Fan's side and continue to help him. To Ning Fan, the danger level of the battle with the 5 immortal emperors of the Dragon Horse tribe was close to 0. Thus, he did not feel excited at all. However, to the people of Thunder Immortal True Monarch, this battle was definitely a life-or-death battle. It was a battle that could be remembered as a classic battle in their lives. The friendship between women could be formed because of many unimportant things. It could also be broken because of many inexplicable reasons. However, men were different. The friendship between men could be formed because of wine and meat. It could also be formed because of life and death. The friendship between wine and meat was not as important as the friendship between life and death. During the battle that day, they had gone through several life and death situations and held each other's necks. How could they not be friends of life and death? When a friend of life and death was in trouble, how could they leave alone? Due to the unparalleled divine might that Ning Fan displayed, Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the great Emperor of Machine Crafting were already convinced by him. At the same time, they were worried that Ning Fan might encounter more immortal emperors of the foreign races in the future. How could they be willing to return to the Taiyuan Ferry alone to treat their injuries? If Thunder Immortal True Monarch did not leave, Fairy Yu Hua who was his puppet would naturally not leave as well. This matter had already been exposed by the seventh prince of the Dragon Horse tribe. Thus, Thunder Immortal True Monarch decided not to hide it anymore. Instead, he openly told everyone that his Dao companion was indeed a puppet. Ning Fan clicked his tongue inside. An immortal emperor-level puppet actually managed to hide from the eyes and ears of the entire Eastern Heaven. From this point of view, this Thunder Immortal True Monarch did have some capabilities. These were all just gossip. Ning Fan actually did not care whether the Thunder Immortal True Monarch and Fairy Yu Hua would follow him or not. During the battle that day, the strength that the two of them displayed could not satisfy Ning Fan. Thus, he did not have high expectations for them. It did not matter whether they followed him or not. Of course, if they follow him, Ning Fan would still appreciate their kind intentions. Even though you are very weak, as for the great Emperor of Machine Crafting. This person could actually come and go freely in the chaotic magnetic force of the world river using his deduction technique. Ning Fan knew that he would not be able to do that. Thus, he sincerely admired the great Emperor of Machine Crafting. Even though this person's strength was also very weak, at least he had a skill. Thus, during their journey to the next stage, in addition to dealing with the foreign races that ambushed them along the way, Ning Fan seized the time to ask the great Emperor of Machine Crafting about his deduction technique. When he was free, he would go and deal with the trace of ancestral cloud that could not erase the will of the sage. How could the Tao of divination be so easy to master? Ning Fan naturally could not improve his Tao of divination by just a few days of learning. However, he did benefit a lot from it. As the saying goes, there is bound to be one who can learn from others. If others ask him about the secret of the Tao of divination, the great Emperor of Machine Crafting would certainly not tell them. This was the ultimate technique that he relied on to establish himself in the world. How could he reveal it to others? However, the great Emperor of Machine Crafting had already been won over by Ning Fan. As long as Ning Fan did not ask about his biggest secret, he would tell him everything he knew. He really did not hide anything from others. In the beginning, when Ning Fan faced the chaotic magnetic force of the world river, he only felt that it was a mess. After the great Emperor of Machine Crafting's explanation, the magnetic force of the world river gradually changed when he looked at it again. When he listened to the sound of the wind in heaven and earth, it also changed. This labyrinth-like waterway of the world river seemed to have its own pattern. When he looked at the treasure-seeking compass, he also had a strange feeling. Strange, this treasure-seeking compass seemed to search for more items and wider areas as its owner's Tao of divination increased. In the past, Ning Fan did not realize this because his Tao of divination was not enough. However, after the great Emperor of Machine Crafting's guidance, his current Tao of divination seemed to have reached the minimum requirement to use the highest searching ability of the treasure-seeking compass. Ning Fan fiddled with the treasure-seeking compass. To his surprise, he discovered that as his Tao of divination improved slightly, the treasure-seeking compass could actually ignore the magnetic force of the world river and locate objects. Before this, he could not do this because of the interference of the magnetic force. At first, Ning Fan thought that the so-called search for everything in the world was just an empty name. However, it turned out that the treasure-seeking compass was not the weak one but Ning Fan himself. Ning Fan, who had reached the standard of his Tao of divination, casually took out the treasure-seeking compass. Suddenly, his expression changed. On the treasure-seeking compass, there were dozens of black light spots which pointed directly at the bottom of the world river. All of those black light spots were the extremely rare 800 million yen heavy wood in the Age of Chaos. Moreover, there seemed to be quite a lot of yen heavy wood in each location. The 800 million yen heavy wood could only be formed after 800 million years. It was the most difficult main ingredient to obtain in the recipe of the immeasurable pill. As for the immeasurable pill, it was the most important thing for cultivators to improve their cultivation base. A palm-sized 800 million yen heavy wood was enough to cause the forces of immortal emperors to fight over it. Ning Fan found it hard to imagine how many 800 million yen heavy wood were there at the bottom of the world river. Just the amount of yen heavy wood contained in the past few days' journey was enough for nearly 100 peak thought fragmentation realm cultivators to advance to the immortal venerables realm. How much yen heavy wood would there be in the entire 11 rivers? What a shocking amount of mineral resources. Unfortunately, they were all in the hands of the alien races. Ning Fan suddenly understood why there were so many ancient monsters among the alien races. They were simply inexhaustible. It was not only because of their strong reproductive ability but also because they had an inexhaustible supply of 800 million yen heavy wood. They also had an inexhaustible supply of the main ingredient of the immeasurable pill, which allowed them to continuously produce experts. It would be great if I could go to the bottom of the world river and plunder all the yen heavy wood. Unfortunately, Ning Fan sighed. The magnetic force on the surface of the water was already extremely strong. The magnetic force at the bottom of the world river was more than 10 times stronger than the magnetic force on the surface of the water. Ning Fan could not even determine the direction on the surface of the water. If he went to the bottom of the world river, he would probably lose his way even more. However, since he had reached the standard of his Tao of divination, he could use the treasure-seeking compass to determine the direction. Even though the process of using the compass to determine the direction was more time-consuming, it was not impossible for him to travel at the bottom of the world river. However, he still had a mission to complete. Besides, he did not know how many immortal emperors there were at the bottom of the world river. There was a high possibility that there were quasi-saints. Ning Fan did not think that all the immortal emperors of the alien races were useless trash like the ones he had captured. Among them, there must be experts who he could not reach today. It would be great if I had a massive amount of chi and blood like black rope. Even if I encounter a quasi-saint, it would be difficult for them to kill me. I would be able to come and go with ease and protect myself. Unfortunately, the process of obtaining the spirit refining cauldron and the incinerating furnace was very smooth. However, I just couldn't find this chi and blood gourd no matter how hard I tried. In the entire Eastern Heaven, there is actually no news about this item. Not even the ancient books have any records about it. It is almost impossible to cultivate the chi and blood like black rope. After witnessing black rope's abnormal chi and blood, Ning Fan's passion for the chi and blood gourd was even greater than the spirit refining cauldron and the incinerating furnace. During the dozens of years of waiting for the Dark Race's revenge, he secretly collected most of the gourds in the Eastern Heaven. However, none of them were the chi and blood gourd. Speaking of gourds, Ning Fan flipped his hand and took out the innate purple gourd. He obtained this item when he first entered the Eastern Heaven in the past. It was a good material for crafting innate magic treasures. Looking at this innate purple gourd, the scenes of him interacting with Candle Bao in the past replayed vividly in his mind. He thought of Candle Bao and the eyeball monster. Those two idiots should be in the Northern Heaven now. With the eyeball monster's obsession to protect the common people, it probably would not turn a blind eye to the chaos of the world river in the Northern Heaven. How could a person who even dared to enter the path of fire of a huge sect in the heaven wasteland turn a blind eye to the chaos in the Northern Heaven? Thinking of the eyeball monster, Ning Fan revealed a rare smile. However, when his eyes fell on the innate purple gourd again, his expression became solemn. This innate purple gourd made him feel solemn. Of course, it was not because it was a good material for crafting treasures. Ning Fan had completely given up on crafting treasures. There was no other reason. He did not have the time to spend millions of years crafting a low-grade innate magic treasure. If he wanted this kind of magic treasure, wouldn't it be faster to just snatch it? What made him feel solemn was the strange feeling that the innate purple gourd gave him. It seemed to have affected his divine spirit bloodline. However, this gourd was definitely not the legendary divine weapon of the divine spirit, the Qi and blood gourd. If you ask me how I got all this information, of course, it was because I was chatting with the gourd. Let me ask you. Are you the Qi and blood gourd? No, no, no. I am a purple pseudo-artifact. I am a purple pseudo-artifact. I am a purple pseudo-artifact. What is a purple pseudo-artifact? Could it be related to the Qi and blood gourd? Ha. 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 What are you laughing at? You are just a gourd. Is there anything that can make you happy? I am a purple pseudo-artifact. I am a purple pseudo-artifact. I am a purple pseudo-artifact. I will ask you one last time. What is a purple pseudo-artifact? Ha ha. Ha ha. Laughing again, Ning Fan was like a lunatic. He had been talking to the innate purple gourd for 1 hour but he could not get any useful information. Other than the purple pseudo-artifact, the gourd would not say a third sentence. Ning Fan felt strange. He who had decided to embark on the path of divinity clearly felt that this innate purple gourd had an inexplicable relationship with his divine spirit Qi. The relationship was not deep. However, it did exist. This was not the Qi and blood gourd. However, it might contain some clues to find the Qi and blood gourd, a purple pseudo-artifact. Purple technique, I seem to have heard the 2 words purple technique somewhere before. Ning Fan closed his eyes and muttered to himself. After a while, he suddenly trembled. Didn't the wind-mist finger that he comprehended from immortal sovereign Zi-Do use the purple technique as a prefix? Elegance is a finger of quicksand. Aging is a period of time. Purple technique, wind-mist, purple technique, while Ning Fan was muttering to himself, a large group of Eastern Heaven cultivators behind him looked at each other. They could not understand what Ning Fan was doing. Why was he talking to a gourd? If they did not know that Ning Fan was a genius cultivator with normal intelligence, they would probably think that he was a lunatic. Fellow Taoist Ning's hobby is really strange. He actually knows how to chat with a gourd. Could it be that this action of his contains some kind of great Tao? Saints treat all living things as dogs but fellow Taoist Ning does the opposite. He treats all living things as friends and communicates with all living things. Others laugh at me for being too crazy but I laugh at them for not being able to see through it. Such a strange cultivation method is really unheard of. It's really admirable. When a superior scholar hears the Tao, he bows and walks. When a middle-aged scholar hears the Tao, he is hesitant to live or die. When a subordinate hears the Tao, he laughs. If he doesn't laugh, he won't be able to understand the Tao. This is exactly what I mean. The true great Tao is certainly different from others. How can ordinary people understand it? We are far inferior to it. Thunder Immortal True Monarch and the others sighed in admiration. When you admire a person to the extreme, even if he is really a lunatic, you will also think that he is a genius that no one can understand. It's just like when a person drinks water, only he knows whether it's hot or cold. It's just like how people say Tao, there is no need to understand. In such an uplifting atmosphere after the battle, the next stage was in sight. However, no one was afraid of the battle between the foreign races, because Ning Fan was here. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.